Okay. I'm going to go live. We're going to have to stick with this because it's 9 o'clock, eh? Yeah. That's the old one. Just refresh. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2, testing 1 2 3 4. What's that? Yeah. Yeah, I got to call my guest, so. Okay, not a problem. Bye.
Hi, Dave.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hi, Dave.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Testing 1 2. Oh, can you hear me? Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Because
hang on. Can you hear me, Dave? I can't hear you.
do you have headphones?
No, it's speakers. I use the speakers.
Oh.
I've got a microphone, but I haven't got headphones.
Okay.
Why isn't this working?
All right, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. God damn it. Yeah, Skype's not picking up. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. There's no microphone going in. Yeah. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Oh, fuck. Why did he hang up? Yeah, hold on. He's calling in on Skype here. Okay, I need my mouse for a second, please. Thank you. Hey, buddy, can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, that's good. That's good. It works well.
Okay, cool. I'll get you to kill your camera. I'm going to kill mine.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we'll do that.
All right, Chuck, it seems like we're working, and looks like we have audio going through, so we're good.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
All right, sorry, I was talking to my tech guy there.
Perhaps I need him over here.
Yeah, no kidding. We just redid the studio here, and
Okay.
so give me a couple of seconds here. Hey, everybody on YouTube, I know it's a little frustrating. I know my voice is off by a little bit. We are still working on it. Trust me on this. I know there's going to be lag. I know there's going to be about 5 to 10 seconds right now. So just give me a little bit of time here, guys, and we will get things going. We are working on it, and let us just enjoy the show. I know it's not going to match up with the audio, so once again, the music is on, everyone. Super Chat is open. Marcus Allen against tonight. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Now, if you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Tonight, we have someone who has been on this show before, just a few months ago, and I got to tell you, I am really enjoying the time that we are getting with our good friend here, and that is Marcus Allen. You know, when we did the show a few months ago where he was discussing a lot of very intriguing details that he had studied on about the moon landings and whether or not they were real, well, I just had to bring him back. I had to. There was no choice but to do so because he's just that strong. He's that great. Now, Marcus is the British distributor and publisher of the UK edition of Nexus Magazine. And tonight, he's taking us down a road about crop circles. Why? Well, because they fall into a lot of hidden history. What is causing them? Are they human hoaxes? Are they aliens creating these? Are they natural phenomena of great pieces of art that Mother Nature likes to carve into her own land? We don't know. Marcus Allen, welcome to Spaced Out Radio again. How are you?
Dave, thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. It's nice and quiet over here in the UK.
I'm glad you are enjoying it. We are testing out our brand new studio here as we have rebuilt everything. And it is very, very intriguing to see what is going on here. And I can tell you this, we're going to restart the show. We got to restart the show. Bear with me here, okay?
Yeah, okay. No problem. Plenty of time.
All right. Thank you. All right, hold on. Where is my intro? Of central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Now, if you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Tonight we bring back a guest. I got to tell you, he is one of my new favorite guests on this show, because just a few months ago, we had Marcus Allen talking and discussing, as well as debating, the topic of the moon landings, whether or not they are real. And Marcus put out some pretty profound information in regards to whether or not we actually landed on the moon. Well, I'll tell you, I am a believer that we did. But the arguments and the information that Marcus provided is absolutely phenomenal and stunning. And Marcus, if you don't know who he is, if this is your first time listening to him, he is the British distributor and publisher of the UK edition of Nexus Magazine. And this leads us into his topic, the topic tonight of crop circles. Whether or not they are real, whether or not they are man-made, whether or not we have alien beings drawing these perfected pieces of art, or is it Mother Nature giving herself a beautiful stamp of approval? We do not know. However, Marcus has researched it, and that's what we are getting into tonight. Marcus, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Dave. Delighted to be here.
Good to have you as well, my friend. I'll tell you, last time you were on, we gained a lot of subscribers and a lot of people trying to figure out what we are all about and who we are. And people were very interested in learning all about what you were doing and how you come up with this information. So let's talk a little bit about you for people who may be new to who you are. How did you get involved with looking into all of this weird, strange phenomena?
It goes back about 50, 55 years, 60 years almost. You can tell I'm that old already, can't you? Been around the block a few times. And so a friend of mine said, there's a book you should read. And I thought, I like books. But you can only get it in one place in London. You have to go to this office building near the House of Commons, knock on the door and say that Roger sent me. So I did, and the book was called The New Unhappy Lords by A.K. Chesterton. This is the son of G.K. Chesterton, the quite well-known author. And that was what started me off, because The New Unhappy Lords was a story about what's going on behind the scenes. Anyway, long story short, I got more interested. I found another book around the same time called None Dare Call It Conspiracy, by Gary Allen, who's no relation to me, but it's a good name to have. And that was, as it said on the front, none dare call it conspiracy. And we're hearing a lot about conspiracies at the moment because these things just won't go away. And this was really generated a lot of interest following the JFK assassination in November 1963. I remember where I was when I first heard about it, on a little black and white television I had in my flat in London. And I thought, God, what's going on? What's happening? How did this happen? How could this be allowed to happen? And then I got into the whole story of the JFK assassination and how that was all a bit dubious, to say the least. Was it a lone gunman acting on his own initiative, Lee Harvey Oswald, or was it a more conspiratorial view? And basically the jury's still out on it at the moment because nobody's been identified yet. Not publicly anyway. Privately, many people have been identified as being a part of it, because in any conspiracy and anything like this, you just have to answer the question, who benefits? Cui bono is the Latin, who benefits from this activity? And it's easy to identify many people who benefited as a result of JFK not being president in 1963. And then you'll see what happened after that. The Vietnam War happened. Very unpleasant experience that was. Totally unprovoked alleged attack on American warships. And a bit of trivia here, the commander of the naval fleet at the Gulf of Tonkin, which is what we're talking about, was a guy by the name of Admiral George Morrison, who had a son called Jim Morrison, who was the lead singer of a very well-known pop group, The Doors, taken from Aldous Huxley's book, The Doors of Perception. What happens when you use drugs? There's an important link between the military and the pop industry via the intelligence services. These are all things I picked up along the way. It's a 60-year journey. It takes a while to get everything in place, but I think I've got a fairly good grasp of what's going on and why it's happening. And we see it all going on at the moment with this COVID virus thing. You know what COVID stands for? China-operated virus independently distributed, or something.
Or it stands for something a little bit more. I'm sorry, I'm very sensitive about the COVID thing. I will not get in there. I've had friends who have it. My cousin is a doctor who is fighting this locally, and I just will not take the conversation down the COVID road. Sorry, boss.
No, that's fine. I quite understand that. I have friends who are doctors who will say much the same thing. So, agreed. Anyway, there is a great deal going on, and one of the things that Nexus Magazine covers are subjects like this: hidden history, as you already mentioned, future science. There's a very interesting area coming up where we're continually being told that fossil fuels are destroying the planet by producing too much CO2. Well, tell that to the plants, because what do plants use as their food? Carbon dioxide. So the more carbon dioxide you produce, the better it is for plants. And the space photographs showing a considerably increased greening of the planet would appear to follow up on that, because we've had increased volumes of CO2. Anyway, the whole global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it, story is full of so many holes, it makes a sieve look like a solid object. It's a ridiculous story. Now, if we want to get rid of fossil fuels and nuclear, because they're allegedly dangerous, they're not actually dangerous at all. Nuclear reactors are used to power aircraft carriers and submarines. And if it was dangerous, don't you think the people on board the aircraft carriers and submarines might have something to say about it, or might fall down ill? No, they don't, because it's easy to protect. But to take it the next stage beyond that, there is another form of energy which is being developed right now. It's called zero-point energy, or quantum energy, called by different names. Zero-point energy refers to the 0 point, which is absolute zero, at which point all movement stops, all physical movement stops, because it's minus 273 degrees Kelvin. Very, very cold indeed. We can't actually achieve that. We can get a few degrees above it. But if you can harness the energy because there is energy, there is movement, the movement of electrons and protons within atoms does not cease at absolute zero. It continues. If you can harness that energy, which is basically infinite, totally non-polluting, available anywhere, you can power the world. Now, Nikola Tesla was doing this 100 years ago. He was researching it. He got taken out of the picture because his funding was stopped. The Wardenclyffe Tower in New York was part of his investigation into the zero-point energy, or the wireless transmission of energy. Because just the same way that we can transmit television pictures through the air now, it's perfectly possible to transmit energy through the air. It's just a matter of generating it. Now, there are people who are doing this right now, developing zero-point energy. It's being done. There is a 10 megawatt power station already in operation. I'm not at liberty to say where it's in operation because I've given the person who gave me the information my word that I would not publicize it beyond just saying that it exists. You can choose not to believe me if you want. That's quite okay. But just keep your eye out for zero-point energy. You can check out the basics of it on YouTube quite easily. Just punch in zero-point energy and you'll find a lot of people discussing it. It is a real thing. It is totally non-polluting. It is totally infinite because there's electricity throughout the whole of space. Space is full of energy. We don't see it. It doesn't mean to say it's not there. So that is the future. That will be developed over the next few years, and there are people working on it right now. It's a very complex subject, but it's something that we should keep an eye on. So the future is actually very, very bright indeed. If you start getting into this sort of whole area of conspiracies and government cover-ups and New World Order and Illuminati and all the normal characters who appear at regular intervals, they actually have no more power than any other group of people. Sure, they're powerful, they run big businesses, they run organizations which can influence our lives. It doesn't mean to say they're infallible. It doesn't mean to say they're out to grab everything they can, because if they did, what would be left for anybody else? It's a nonsense. There is so much rubbish talked about this Illuminati take over the world, New World Order. It's hard to know where to begin. Of course there are powerful people out there. Of course there are powerful people running big companies. It doesn't mean to say that they know any more than you or I do. In fact, in some cases, they probably know less because they spent so long getting to the top of those companies. They've had to trample on so many people to get there. They've lost their humanity, which is one of the tragedies of the human condition. That no matter how powerful you want to be, no matter how much money you want to earn or how much influence you want to have or how much power you want to wield, at the end of the day, we're all dead. And there's no sequel, as Ricky Gervais said.
No, it's not a lot of fun. It's not a lot of fun at all when you look at that. And, you know, with zero-point energy and everything, I mean, look, you don't even have to go back to 0 point. You can go back to just about 4 decades ago, almost 5 decades, when General Motors produced a car that ran on water. And and all of a sudden that car disappeared, and it was no longer talked about being manufactured. I mean, there's a lot of different conspiracies around the energy and the oil sector, and you know, it's ugly. I mean, it's not about saving the planet; it's about draining it dry. And unfortunately, the people who are doing that are not thinking about, you know, the environment aspects of it all. We've seen that for decades. We know what that's like. But I mean, how do you stop it? How do you bring it forward? I mean, I can't see 0 point energy coming through until the military has their way of shutting it or getting to use it first, because let's face it, anything that's cool doesn't go to the public. It goes to the military for the first 50, 60 years. I mean, think about it. We've had speed of sound flight for numerous years. And we still fly on antiquated airplanes that are flying well below Mach speed in order to go across the oceans, wasting tons of gas and oil. I mean, to me, I think that's a mockery. considering that if we believe the stories that are out there, that there is hypersonic speed, there are hypersonic aircraft. We know we can build military missiles at hypersonic speed. Why haven't we sped up travel around the planet? I mean, there's so much, Marcus, so much.
Yes, there is. I totally agree with you that there are so many things which are we're becoming aware of them. Let's say this, zero-point energy is just one aspect, and I think you make a good point. Why are we still flying in aluminium tubes at subsonic speeds across the ocean? That was first done in what Charles Lindbergh did in 1927.
Well, let me ask you this. Sorry for cutting you off. Does it not surprise you? You know, the pride of British Airways was always the Concorde. Does it not surprise you that it's been almost 30 years since that plane, or 25 years since that plane has been retired, that we haven't, you know, like we're relying on Airbuses that go, you know, around Mach 0.8, 0.7, Boeing aircraft that still do the same speeds, and yet, you know, we could get from New York to London in 3 hours using the Concorde.
Yeah, exactly. It's a mystery that why Concorde, which was a magnificent plane, I saw it take off from Heathrow Airport one day, and you could hear it even through the soundproof windows in the terminal building, and everybody stopped to watch it. It was an absolutely magnificent sight. This extraordinarily beautiful shape, delta wing shape, accelerating down the runway, and you could hear all the 4 engines going because it had to have a lot of power in it. But that plane, when it got up into the air, and once it got over the ocean, over the Atlantic, and it broke the sound barrier, because it didn't break the sound barrier over land because it would upset too many people, which is why it really didn't take off very far. Take off the wrong word. It didn't expand its routes very far because it had to overfly so many people who would object to the sound barrier. Anyway, once it got over the ocean, it would accelerate up to Mach 2, which is about 1,350 miles an hour, and it would glide there at 60,000 feet. Now, to link it into the moon landing stuff, one of the things that carried on Concorde was a radiation meter, and if it exceeded a certain level, the plane had to come down to a lower level, because it wasn't to protect the passengers because they weren't on it for long enough. It was to protect the crew, because if a certain radiation level was breached, it was greater than the FDA would allow. But it was a magnificent piece of equipment, and its demise was tragic in that it was an accident which could have been avoided. It was a piece of metal that was on the runway in Paris, and it got picked up by the aircraft wheels taking off and thrown into the fuel tank, which of course exploded, and you saw those tragic pictures of Concorde on fire trying to land. Well, it landed all right in a hotel outside the airport and killed a lot of people. As a result of that, so many precautions had to be taken to stop any potential repetition of that event, which is a one-off event. It was basically down to the poor runway observation at Charles de Gaulle Airport by crew on the ground not spotting a piece of metal. It wasn't a very big piece of metal, but it punctured the tire. The tire disintegrated. The pieces of tire flew up into the fuel tank, which is just above the undercarriage, exposed the fuel. The fuel was ignited by the exhaust, which is just behind it, and end of story. It was a very, very expensive operation to keep the thing flying at all. And one of the tragedies is that because it was such a complex piece of equipment, it was basically hand built. No two Concordes were the same, because each part of it was built individually by quite skilled, very skilled technicians. And they decided it was too expensive to continue it, just to be able to cross the Atlantic 2 hours less time than it would take a normal jumbo jet, a 747, or current parlance, an A380. Which, incidentally, the A380 is now out of production as well, because there doesn't seem to be the demand for that amount of capacity. So partly it's market forces driving it, and partly it's finance driving it. Because each time you hear somebody quoting, oh, it's going to be very expensive to do so and so, all the money that is spent, say on protecting Concorde, all the money that is spent on individual people's salaries. That's all it's spent on, nothing else. You say, no, of course it's not. You've got to buy in this. You're paying other companies salaries,
right,
to provide the equipment. So it's all to do with individual salaries, individual wages.
Marcus, you hold on right there, because I am about to go to break here on Spaced Out Radio. Marcus Allen, we're getting into a few conspiracies tonight, including crop circles. Stay tuned. More Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. All right, boss, we're clear.
That's good. Things going well your end on the sound?
Yeah, except for you know what? I screwed up because we had to do a quick audio test, and we shut down one of our feeds right earlier, and so just so you know, people in the Spreaker side, you're not going to hear our commercials. You're going to hear us chatting away here. Because we're kind of going bye-bye with those, because we're doing something different with our terrestrial stations, and it'll make it easier for editing. But in regards to the I'm sorry, I kind of got distracted there.
Okay, don't worry.
What were you asking? I'm having a brain fart here.
I was asking about if you got the technical gremlins sorted.
Oh, sort of. We got a few other things. That actually reminds me. Thank you. For everybody on YouTube, I already know that my voice is off from my picture. Okay. We're working on it. We have to try and figure it out. For some, it's about a 1 second delay. For some, it's up to 5-10 seconds. Best thing I can do is say, just refresh your page. We are working on it. Chuck is trying to find a solution, and we will get to that. Hopefully by tomorrow, we'll have it all fixed. So I don't know if your stream is lagging. I don't know. I'm not a YouTube guy. I just show up, and you're right there, and I'm on camera. So give it, just... I read the comments. I'm just as frustrated as you guys are, but we are working on it. Changes, we had to make this change. We're going to be, I need some time, because I've been doing the same thing for like 2 years, man, 2 years. And I'm trying, I got a whole different system here that I got to get used to, including getting into the chat rooms and everything. So, yes, I do know. Yes, I am aware. Yes, we are working on it. And, once again, I understand, and I apologize, but we are working on it. And I think I know what the problem is. Chuck thinks he knows what the problem is, and we'll get that figured out. But, it's weird, because I have a new system here that I have to get used to, and that's what we're working on. All right. So thank you for everybody for updating, and we will just keep it rolling. Mystery News TV, thank you for coming in. You might want to just refresh, man. Bufferin's a good aspirin. How you doing, Marcus?
Oh, doing fine. Is your picture live on YouTube?
Yes.
Well, is it live of you speaking?
Yes.
Would it help to have me on live as well on the picture?
I don't have it set up for camera yet. We're working on that.
Okay, no, that's fine. Just wondering, because I can show some nice pictures, but I will explain them as we go along.
Yeah.
Now, there's some interesting stuff coming on at the moment. There's quite a lot going on in the UK. There's quite a lot going on in the US at the moment.
Yes. By the way, do you know how hard it is to find a picture of you on Google? There's only like 3 of them.
That's probably all there are, actually. I haven't put too many pictures up because that one that you've got on the Skype picture, that's the one I normally use.
I mean, that's a good crop of hair. You should be showing that off.
Oh, yeah, well, there's plenty of it. It's still up there. I mean, that picture's about 10 years old, but I haven't changed that much.
I'm almost sad that you've got I've got about 38,000 gray hairs to your one.
Well, there's a few there. Some of them fall out periodically, but they seem to grow back again. That's what's surprising. Oh, there's a question I got for you, Dave, because you might know the answer to this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in Washington State and Oregon and California, there's a lot of wildfires.
Yeah.
Why do they stop at the Canadian border?
They don't.
They don't?
No.
You've got wildfires in British Columbia?
Yes. Just, you want to know the simple answer to that is we're about 30 seconds away from coming back? The simple answer to that is the American media doesn't realize that there is an entire country between them and Alaska.
I love it.
And honestly, that's the absolute truth. Thank you so much once again to everybody. Yes, we know that my voice is off from the picture. We are working on it. Thank you to everybody for the super chats, Cat Chaser and Lee Bodge. Here comes the second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We welcome everyone listening in around the world and on our digital sides. And remember, if you want to check out our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reaching out and listening and joining up and keeping up to date on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we are talking with Marcus Allen, and we are getting into some really cool conspiracies here. In regards to, we were just talking about air flight, which I absolutely believe is rigged. There's no way that we should be flying 747, 737s. We should be being able to visit anywhere on this planet with the amount of speed that has been used technologically. And Marcus, we welcome you back.
Thank you, Dave. Very good to be here. Thank you for inviting me again. I really appreciate that.
No worries, my friend. No worries. You know, right before the break, we were talking about the airline industry. Why do you think they haven't gone into more supersonic speed and flights and aircraft, pardon me?
I think they're being restricted on the propulsion systems that they can use. At the moment, it's jet engines manufactured around the world. They're very efficient pieces of kit, but they're not very fast because they can't really fly much higher than about 60,000 feet. About twice the height of Everest. If you go back to the mid-1950s, there was a great deal of discussion, quite open discussion, about anti-gravity drives, which derived from some of the research that was being done or had been discovered was being done in Germany in the 1940s. You may have heard mention of something called the Nazi bell. Der Glock, it was called. Basically, it was described as a bell because that's what it looked like. And it was being developed in Poland, I think it was. Some of the structures are still there today. This was being discussed quite openly, and obviously there were a lot of scientists were brought over from Germany under Operation Paperclip in the early 1950s. Werner von Braun, Hermann Oberth, Frank Debus. Many people came in. Most of them worked on the space program, but a few worked in other areas. And one of them was the anti-gravity drives. Now, this may all sound a bit science fiction in 2001 and all that, but it was for real. There was a lot of work going on. Obviously, in the mid-1950s, there weren't the computers that we have today that can assist in that sort of research. But suddenly, I think it was 1956, it all went black, which is a technical expression for saying it was taken within the black projects, the black programs, the secret access programs, the SAPs. And we didn't hear anything more about it. And one of the things was a car that ran on water. Ironically, that was one of the very first articles I ever read about in Nexus, which is why I became so interested in the magazine. I was working for Toyota at the time, one of the world's biggest car manufacturer. I left that company and started importing Nexus and distributing Nexus. Part of it was because I'd read some fascinating articles. One of them was about the car that ran on water. Now you may think, oh, come on, what a stupid idea. Car that runs on water, it couldn't possibly do that. Now just think about it for a minute. Water is comprised of two components, oxygen and hydrogen. If you separate those two, which you do with electrolysis, i.e. pass an electric current through water, you'll get those two gases coming off, oxygen and hydrogen. The oxygen can be a waste product, but the hydrogen is a fuel. We know that hydrogen is a very effective fuel, and it's one of the things that people are trying to develop today. This was being done, I think it was Stan Mayer, was the guy who produced the car that ran on water, and he demonstrated it. He had a little device under the bonnet which separated the water into those two components. He used the hydrogen to drive the car, and the oxygen was vented to the atmosphere. So it was perfectly possible to do it. Now, there's a great deal of discussion nowadays about electric cars being the savior of, and we've got to stop using all these infernal combustion engines, which is a ridiculous idea because they're very clean, they're very efficient. Small diesels are used quite often as part of a hybrid system. Toyota are probably at the forefront of hybrid cars. The Prius is a good example of that. There are probably more electric cars that are hybrids than are full electric. They use a small engine on board the car to regenerate the batteries. There's a very complex piece of software inside the car which determines how much should be regenerated and how much should be transferred to drive the car. And if it gets too low, it starts the engine up and it can regenerate it that way. It's a very good system. But that's going to be phased out because somebody thinks that pure electric cars are the answer. Well, get a grip, guys. That is a stupid idea because a full electric car has to be charged. The batteries have to be charged. It won't do more than about 200 or 300 miles on a full charge. Where are they getting the electricity to charge it from? From a power station. What's the power station using? Coal, natural gas, nuclear possibly. Renewables are not reliable enough to produce the amount of power required. So there's this whole idea that we've got to stop using fossil fuels and use electric cars which use fossil fuels to generate the power to charge the battery. Now, the battery itself is a major problem because it uses cobalt and lithium. Cobalt usually, or the main resource for cobalt is the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where they use basically child labor to dig it out of artisan mines. It's not a big industrial operation. It's lots and lots of kids digging around in the ground to try and find the cobalt, which is then sold off and refined into the cobalt that is used in batteries. This is madness. This is complete nonsense when it's not even going to be necessary. Because we've already seen that if you can run a car on water, why isn't somebody looking at that? Instead of producing all these ridiculous batteries and these stupid cars that don't go very far, but because they'll save the planet. The planet couldn't give a toss whether it's saved or not. The planet will do its own thing. It always has done. Carbon dioxide is not killing the planet. Carbon dioxide is feeding the planet. It's the one thing that plants use to grow themselves. Without carbon dioxide, we'd have no planet. Well, not a planet to live on anyway, because there would be no food. It's what greens, it's part of photosynthesis. It's the chemical reaction using sunlight, carbon dioxide to produce sugars in the plant, which grows the plant and the trees and the grass and all the vegetation we see around us. That's all produced by carbon dioxide. Why are we stopping producing it? It's madness, complete and utter madness. And if anybody can come up with a better answer, and to say that carbon dioxide is heating the planet, no, it's not. There's no indication that carbon dioxide has any effect on the planet at all. Right, here's your starter for 10. What is the percentage of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere right now?
I have no idea.
0.04%. I'll repeat that, 0.04%, or 400 parts per million. That is not very much, 0.04%. There's 19 to 20% of oxygen, just under 80% of nitrogen, and a few other trace gases, argon being one of them, and carbon dioxide being another. Carbon dioxide is such an infinitesimal part of the atmosphere, it cannot possibly have any effect at all. And before anybody starts on radiative welling, which is the normal thing people start talking about, oh, it's the greenhouse effect. No, it's not. There's no roof over the planet. The heat goes up. End of story. What's the heat at, what's the temperature on the planet at about 30,000 feet, top of Everest? Minus 50 degrees. Freezing cold. You wouldn't want to go up there. You get frostbite, and quite a few people do, and there isn't enough oxygen up there for many people to breathe anyway. Well, there's plenty of oxygen, it's just that there isn't enough pressure to force it into our lungs. But that's another story. But this idea that carbon dioxide has this detrimental effect on the planet and we've got to stop producing it, is just so much pseudoscience and rubbish and nonsense that I'm surprised anybody still believes it. And that's all they ever do. Oh, I believe carbon dioxide is killing the planet. No, it's not. It's greening the planet. So anyway, enough of that. The idea that things are the way they are. Let's ask one question of your audience. Why do you believe what you believe?
That's a deep question there, my friend. A deep question.
It's fairly straightforward, actually. So, why do you believe what you believe? Is it because you've been told it by your parents? Is it because your teachers at school told you this? Is it because a trusted source, say that a newsreader that you followed for years, told you this? Is that why you believe what you believe? Most people would probably say yes. You know, I went to a good school. I learned a lot of good things there. My parents were good people and they taught me the best they could. Yes, good, that's fine. But things don't stay the same. You have to examine it and prove it for yourself. It's called logical thinking.
No, and I understand that. I think most people try to do that. They try to think logically. They try to think with thought and you know, maybe even both sides. Except everybody right now, you know, probably doesn't know what to think. Well, you know, when you have a media that is you know, not doing their jobs and telling stories down the middle, they're not reporting, they're not investigating. I mean, there's a lot of trouble out there right now. But I mean, we could go down a huge rabbit hole with that. I want to move on here because I know everybody wants to tune into you to talk about crop circles and everything that goes along with those. So when did you first become intrigued with these phenomenal pieces of art?
I was first aware of them because living in the UK, the majority, I would say at least 50%, probably more, of all crop circles that have ever appeared or been recorded worldwide appear in southern England, in the counties of Wiltshire and Hampshire and a few in Dorset, but mainly in Wiltshire, which is in southern England near Stonehenge and Avebury. And my parents used to live in Wiltshire, so I'm familiar with the county, or the state, as you would possibly refer to it. It's not a very big place, the south of England. It's maybe 150 miles wide and about 50 miles north to south. That's what we would describe as southern England. So you could say it's a sort of, a small part of a state in America or a state in Canada. It's a very big place, America and Canada. Canada's a very big place. England is not a very big place. So these formations were appearing in, the first recorded formation that ever appeared, that we're aware of, appeared in Hertfordshire, which is north of London, in 1678. It was recorded in a little woodcut. It's a local pamphlet. And it appears to be what we would describe today as a crop circle. But it was really about the late 1980s that people became aware of them. 1990, I was first aware of them because my son was into Led Zeppelin at the time, and Led Zeppelin produced a compilation album, and they featured on the cover of that album. Remember vinyl? Those old 12-inch.
Oh yes, the good stuff. The good stuff. And because it was 12 inches in diameter, the vinyl records, they could produce quite good artwork for the cover. And Led Zeppelin produced this artwork showing a crop circle. And that was the first time I was aware of it. What's this? What's this strange thing? And of course, they put their Zeppelin type dirigible on the cover as well, but it was the crop circle that intrigued me. And I discovered where it was. It was in Wiltshire, in a place called Alton Barnes, which is a few miles from Avebury, a few miles south of Avebury. And I went to see it. I thought, oh, this is fun. Let's go and have a look. Oh, hundreds of people, hundreds. Literally, you couldn't see the damn thing. There were so many people there. And it got into the national news, and it was, I thought, well, this is a fascinating thing. What is it about these strange shapes that appear in fields, usually of wheat or barley, or I think you call it canola in North America, which is basically rapeseed. These are crops which are grown commercially in quite large acreage, and wheat is the usual one that you'll find crop circles in because it is very easy to. The formations appear very sharply defined. Now, one of the points that people make about crop circles is that, they're all made by people tramping around after the pubs are closed. Well, yes, possibly some are. I don't deny that because there have been film of people making them. But the vast majority, and there have been over 10,000 formations appearing over the last 30 years, a huge number of individual formations, individual circles, shapes. They can be triangles, they can be circles, they can be any shape. And these appeared. And recently they've become far more complex. They were basically simple circles, maybe 3 or 4 in a triangle, maybe 4 in a circle around a central one called a Celtic cross. These are basically simple designs, which anybody could produce on a piece of paper. But some of the more recent formations, and I'm thinking specifically of one that appeared in 1991, which is called the Mandelbrot set. Now, Mandelbrot is named after Benoit Mandelbrot, who was a French mathematician. And he came up with a computer program, as it happened, which basically would produce endless shapes of the same design at different scales and sizes. And the scale is, it looks rather like a heart with circles on each, at the top and the side. It's a fairly simple design, but it would just go on forever. Anyway, this was called the Mandelbrot set, and this appeared at in a field near Cambridge, which is about 100 miles north of London. And I thought, that's not, and this was photographed. It appeared in the mainstream press in the UK in 1991. And this, I thought, I know what I'm looking at here. I know what this shape is. What's it doing in a field near Cambridge? Oh, I get it. A few of the mathematics students got out and started to create it. No, nobody has ever
come up and said, I made it. Because the next question was, well, how? Because this thing was 200 feet across in a field. Now, in the UK in the summer, between about June and September, there are relatively few hours of darkness. It starts to get dark about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and it gets light again about 4:30 in the morning. So it's not dark for very long. And if people were tramping around in a field in daylight, they would be seen. Because, as I said, the UK is not a very big place. There's a lot of people in it. And you can't really do much in the middle of a field, especially if it's a farmer who's concerned about the integrity of his crop. If he saw somebody trying to destroy it, he would get very upset and start chasing them out. Or he'd call the police, probably, because he didn't know if they're armed or not. So you've got this sort of weird thing where you've got fields which can be easily observed, usually from a small hill nearby. You've got a lot of people around, and once crop circles started appearing in the early 1990s, and they still do today, the last one appeared 2 weeks ago in the UK. If you've got this number of people looking to see who is making them, you'd think by now somebody might have been caught doing it. But no, they haven't. Nobody has ever been caught in the middle of making a crop circle. Nobody. People have made crop circles for publicity purposes, and they can be seen doing it, and actually, excuse me, they're quite often filmed doing it as well. Usually television programs are made, this is how we make our crop circle. And you can see them doing it. And one was made recently in the UK. It was promoting a breakfast cereal called Weetabix. And it was a rather nice formation, and it showed Weetabix, which is a sort of cereal bar. And that took 4 people 36 hours to make in daylight. Well, they stopped at night, but 4 people, 36 hours. But some formations which are huge and vastly bigger than this 50-foot diameter attempt, some of them are up to 900 feet in diameter and consist of over 400 individual circles. There's one that appeared in 2001 in Wiltshire, above the White Horse. If anybody's been to Wiltshire, you know there are white horses on some of the hills, about half a dozen of them. And one of them is a place called Alton Barnes. And there's a white horse there. In the field above the White Horse, this extraordinary formation appeared overnight. It's 900 feet in diameter with 400 circles, individual circles. It's basically a central circle with 6 arms coming out from it. Each arm had 13 circles in it, and each of those circles had 4 circles attached to it. Extraordinary. Some of the circles were 70 feet in diameter. So you've got this anomaly between how many hours of darkness are there, how many people can be seen doing it, and how do they actually do it? Because you never find a formation half finished, like people were making it and they got scared off. You never find that. You never find formations with mistakes in them. Now, you can look at some of these formations. You can go online, and there are plenty of websites which show virtually every crop circle that's ever appeared. Probably the best one, the best known one, is a website called cropcircleconnector.com. You go on there, you can see the current formations, and you can go back in history and see them right back to 1980. They've got them all there, or cropcirclecenter.com. There are plenty of places to look at them. Look at some of the more complex formations and just try to draw that on a piece of paper. If you're going to do it properly, you've got to do it with the lights out. Just try and draw some of these formations on a piece of paper and just see how easy it is to do it. And then imagine doing that in a field, in the dark, maybe 3 or 4 people, could be 6 people. I don't know, it doesn't matter how many people, but you haven't got very long to do it. And you can't make mistakes, because you can't rub out a mistake in a field of wheat.
Very true. Marcus, let's hold off right there because we're only about 20 seconds away from going to our break here at the top of the hour, and I don't want to have to miss anything because this topic intrigues me. You said something very, very intriguing that I want to ask you about in the next half hour, which is about the idea of the time, that there isn't enough time to fix mistakes. And that, I think, is a very, very important part to this entire process, this entire conversation that we are having. And, we're going to find out what's it like to see these crop circles. What's it like to see them appear? I mean, they're just so beautiful. Are they all done by man? I'm sure there are some, but the intricate ones, I am not so sure. We'll leave that up to our good man, Marcus Allen, in hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio next. All right, my friend, I'm just going to step away for a couple of seconds. I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, Dave. Yeah, that's fine.
I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks, I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and we have some cool swag for you to pick up. All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spicing up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. all. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month. And follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio.
Good. Well done. Okay.
Get my headphones on so that way I can hear you. There we go.
You can hear me. It's always good if you can hear me.
Yeah, it works better that way, you know?
Yes.
It truly does.
I was thinking I can display some pictures, if you like, of crop circles.
All right. Probably not a good night for that tonight because I am having a hell of a time just trying to keep organized with my new studio here.
Right.
Oh,
that was the one I was talking about. Okay.
That's beautiful.
Off it goes. There we go. Back with the handsome lad again.
All right.
Any reaction coming in on the chat?
Oh, they're loving it. They're loving it.
Oh, good. In fact, you're timing this particular chat very well, Dave, because the next issue of Nexus has got the annual roundup of crop circles.
Oh, nice.
Which we've had for 20 years now.
Love it. I love it.
Each year we have a roundup that show the most important circles that have appeared in the year and discuss them. It's written by a good friend of mine called Andy Thomas. So, well done for the timing, if I may say so.
Oh, I think so. That's
quite right.
All right, we have about 45 seconds.
Okay, when you're ready.
All right, thank you to everybody on YouTube who has participated in the Super Chat tonight. We will hopefully tomorrow night get all of the audio straightened out with and match my voice into what I'm actually saying. Here we go with hour number 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. And on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Obscurantism. Obscurantism is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we are talking with Nexus Magazine publisher out of the United Kingdom, Marcus Allen. We're talking crop circles tonight. Very interesting topic indeed. Who is making these? Is it aliens? Is it human? Is it Mother Nature herself? Marcus, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave. Good to be here.
Good to have you here as well. My friend, I got to ask you in regards to this, how often is this phenomena happening?
Well, this last year, 2020, there were 45 formations in the UK and about 20 around the world. And that's pretty well average for a year. Some years are more, some years are slightly less, but it's normally around that sort of number. 30 to 40, maybe 50 in a year in the UK. they are appearing in other countries. Last year, there were quite a few in France, for instance. There have been some in Italy. Surprisingly, there are very, very few in North America. They've appeared in Australia. They've appeared in Japan, in a paddy field, in a rice field. They've appeared in Vietnam. They've appeared in Hungary, over in Europe. They've appeared in Russia. They appear in virtually every country around the world. Maybe they're not all identified as such. Some people get rather frightened by them. Some people think it's some sort of terrorism. But once they start examining it, they usually calm down and start saying, well, how did this happen? How did this occur? What happened here? And that's one of the great questions. How are they created? And the real answer is nobody knows. We know how some of them are created because people go around, they're paid by advertising companies to make logos in the field, and they use stomping boards, they're called. It's a piece of wood about 3 foot long with a rope that you use your foot to stamp the crop down. But anybody who does that leaves a mark on the crop which can be identified, because if you use a stomping board or a piece of wood or anything like that, or a roller, it'll normally mark the crop. It'll bend it, and you can identify it. If you know what you're looking for, you can identify it. The point is that many crop circles don't have any indication that people have been anywhere near them, because sometimes they'll appear after a night of heavy rain. And in parts of the UK, the soil can get quite heavy. Some of it's made of clay. And if you walk in a field after it's been raining, or even when it's raining, you'll gather soil on your feet, and it'll show us footprints as you walk along. You can't really hide it. But there are reports, not very many, but there are reports of people who've actually seen a crop circle appearing in front of them. And they'll say it appears literally within a few seconds. They don't know what's causing it. They don't see anything happening. There is quite a famous film. If you go onto YouTube and put Oliver's Castle, 1996, Oliver's Castle, it's a film which was taken by a gentleman who was out trying to find UFOs in Wiltshire. This is Oliver's Castle is an old hill fort outside Devizes in Wiltshire, and he was out trying to spot UFOs because it's quite a flat county. The sky is very big. Well, for England it's big anyway. And he had his camera out, and he was aware of some movement, some lights moving, and he focused his camera on these lights. There were 2 of them, and the nearest description one could make of them is that they looked like a flying light bulb, or 2 flying light bulbs flying in formation, and they were sort of flying in a circular formation above the field. And as they flew in this circular formation, you can see in the film the crop circle appearing below them. And that crop circle existed. I know people who actually visited it the next day, went into it, and reported, yes, it's a real crop circle. It's as it appears in the film. And then these lights vanished over the horizon and were never seen again. And that is quite a common report of people who've been around crop circles as they appear. There aren't many of these reports, but most of them have this feature in common, that they see a sort of small glowing ball of light, not as bright as a light bulb if you look at it close up, but you can see it maybe 3 or 4 inches in diameter, just moving, sometimes at random, sometimes in a determined pattern. There's no indication as to whether they're under intelligent control, though they appear to be, because a 3-inch diameter ball is really not very big. Are they remote controlled? And if so, what is the energy that pushes the crop down? Because it's several square yards of crop are flattened, and circles are made, and straight lines are drawn. So there appears to be some form of intelligence there. Whether there isn't or not, nobody knows, because nobody's ever been able to capture one of these flying light bulbs. I've actually seen one myself on a freeway in the UK. I was doing about 80 miles an hour, and this thing crossed across my windscreen. It appeared to be what I would describe as a flying light bulb. Not so bright that you had to squint, because I was driving the car. My wife was with me at the time. She said, "What's that?" And I said, "I don't know what it is." And it flew off. I was doing 80 miles an hour, and this thing was keeping pace with me. And it just disappeared over the side of the freeway, and I never saw it again. But the next day, about 15 miles from where I saw that light bulb, a crop circle appeared on a farm near where I live. I don't know if there's a coincidence between the two. I don't know if there's any connection between the two. But it just seemed remarkably fortuitous that, in fact, I was returning from attending a crop circle conference down in the West Country. So obviously I was thinking about it. So I don't know whether this was coincidence or anything other than that. But it's something that I saw. It was witnessed by another person, so it wasn't just my imagination. And if you're going along a motorway or in a freeway in the UK, you don't get internal reflections off the street lights. But in fact, a particular part of the freeway I was on doesn't have lights on it. So I don't know what I saw, but I know I saw something. And I know a crop circle appeared the next day, or was found the next day. I don't know if it appeared the next day, but it was found the next day by a farmer. The fields are not very big in the UK, and a farmer can normally look over his field and see if there's anything there. He was aware of something strange in the field, took his combine harvester into it, and was able to photograph it. That's why we know it existed.
Right. Question for you. In regards to the wheat or the crop that is pushed over, we see a lot of people focusing in on videos. I think we've all seen the videos where these crops are not broken. They're actually bent over and flattened. How is it possible that these crops have the strength not to break and stay in pattern without even popping back up?
Good point. Good question, that, because it is something that people have examined quite closely. Now, you're probably aware that wheat, it's about 3, maybe 4 feet high at the most, and every 6 inches or so, there are little nodules on the stalk, which are basically strengthening devices to hold the thing up. Because if it didn't have these, it would fall over quite easily. But if wheat falls over, it can get damaged. These nodules, when they appear in a crop circle, they're not broken. It's as if they are exploded. Not exploded to the point where they become so weak that they can't hold the crop up. It's just that it appears that there's some form of heat energy that has driven the moisture, because obviously there's moisture in all plants, driven the moisture out through the little hole in the nodule. And as you say, it continues to grow. The farmer can come along with a combine harvester. If he's skilled at it, he can harvest all the wheat, all his crop, even if it's been pushed over by a crop circle. Now, obviously, if people have walked into it, it would be too badly damaged at that point to be harvested. But wind can cause the same sort of phenomena. You get wind damage in a crop. That's not the same thing at all, because wind damage is quite random. You can see it. Crop gets blown over if the wind is strong enough. But a crop circle is highly selective. And what is so remarkable is the sheer beauty of some of the formations. They are staggeringly beautiful things to look at. As a piece of design, they're unsurpassed. I mean, not all of them are, but some of the more sophisticated ones are extremely beautiful things to look at. You get Fresnel screens where you get views of expanding circles or interconnecting circles that are interspersed with flattened crop and standing crop. There's one very famous example, appeared about 15 years ago in Hampshire, which is near to next county along to Wiltshire, which appeared to show an alien face, the famous grey alien face. And this appeared in a field of wheat. And this alien face was holding something, a circular object, rather like a CD. And that CD, or the circle, had crop in a particular pattern inside it. Some was standing, some was flattened, various sizes, and one of the people who was examining it realized that it was actually a computer language, ASCII, and it was translated from that, using that language, and it basically said, we don't like people fooling around, we're trying to be peaceful, almost as if there's a message from ET. There were various other similar formations around the same time, which showed other alien faces appearing in crops. Now, that's actually quite difficult to achieve. So if you take the picture of it from a height, most of them are photographed from helicopters. Nowadays, drones are used quite extensively. There's some remarkable film of crop circles using drones to show the intricacy of it. It's the same way that you would see a picture in a magazine or a newspaper. They're made of little dots. If you examine a picture in a newspaper closely, you'll see it's comprised of dots of varying sizes, which make up the image so that you can see it as the photograph, but it actually consists of dots. This crop circle in the field in Hampshire was comprised of little dots of varying sizes, which when viewed from far enough away showed the picture of the alien face. Now, why would somebody go to all that trouble? Because if this is land art, which is what some people refer to it as, land art, you know, you've got street art where you've got Banksy and co. doing their graffiti on buildings and walls.
Yes.
This is land art, where you've got somebody doing it in the middle of a field. But nobody knows who they are. Nobody's ever come forward to claim, well, I did that and this is how I did it. People have tried to acquire ownership of them, but they then say, well, if you did that, let's see you do it again in daylight so we can study it. And occasionally people have taken up that challenge, and it's absolute rubbish.
Let's get to a question from Jenny here, who is asking in our YouTube chat room. Do the crop circles have changes in the plants and have recordable electronic frequencies?
I don't know about recorded electronic frequencies, but I do know that there are many reports of people who've entered a crop circle with photographic equipment, film equipment, and still camera equipment, and the batteries drain, and they can't use it until they move outside the crop circle, and then it all comes back to life again. Now, I don't know what that's about, but that's been reported so often that it's a phenomenon which most people are now aware of. It even happens if you're in a helicopter and you fly directly over a crop circle, your camera can stop working. You fly outside, and it starts up again. I don't know what that is. People have taken samples from the soil inside a crop circle. They've taken samples of the plants inside a crop circle, and there are changes within the soil. It appears to be that the soil is more productive, that the plants are stronger. There appear to be physical changes or maybe molecular changes. I don't know. It's a subject which many people are studying, and some people even experiment by leaving small bottles of water inside the crop circles and using it as healing afterwards when it's absorbed some of the energy. Because there does appear to be an energy involved in this, some form of energy. Where it's coming from, what it is, what form it takes, nobody really knows. But certainly you need some form of energy to flatten a crop. It doesn't just fall over by itself. You can say, well, it's wind. Yes, it may be some sort of meteorological phenomenon. That was one of the very first suggestions that people came up with and said, yeah, maybe it's a meteorological phenomenon. Well, it may be in some cases, but very few of them, because wind is very random. What you've got, I mean, there's a crop circle that appeared about 12 years ago, which actually in pictorial form depicted pi to 10 places of decimal. 3.142 is the standard pie, and this was 3 little circles indicating the 3, and then the crop circle itself was divided into 10 segments, and a line would go around 1, 4, 2 sections, and it was extraordinary pictorial illustration of pi, and it was accurate in terms of how we know pi today. Other formations have shown what looked like birds in flight, stylized birds. Other formations appear to show very complex illustrations of how circles interact with each other. Some of them are square. So you've got all these variations. Now, whether you want to pursue the idea, well, how are they made? We don't know. Does it matter how they were made? Because if you go to hear a concert, say a Beethoven symphony, do you start worrying about what the cat was that provided the gut to string the violin with? Or do you listen to the sound it makes when a skilled player uses it? No, you listen to the sound. The same with crop circles. Does it really matter how they're made? It'd be a nice problem to solve. But what is extraordinary about crop circles is the effect it has on people, the effect they have on people. As I say, the first one I was physically aware of and visited, and to actually enter a crop circle, you should always ask permission, by the way, before you enter a crop circle. It's polite.
Why is that? Why is that?
Well, they're referred to as temporary temples. And it would always be polite to enter somebody else's property. I don't know, it's just something that I do. You just say, is it okay to enter? And normally the answer is yes, because occasionally people will say, no, I tried that and I really didn't feel comfortable. So, yeah, just be polite. Because if a crop circle is there for a reason, which it appears to be, is it a meteorological phenomenon, plain and simple? Is it some sort of energetic phenomena that's produced by the particular soil? Maybe there's an underground aquifer, a water table underneath. Maybe that has some impact, because in the south of England there's a lot of chalk farmland, and there's a lot of aquifers, underground water storage. There appear to be some sort of link with what goes on in the sky. There are people who report all sorts of strange and wonderful phenomena around crop circles, because people spend a lot of time out at night watching to see if they can see a crop circle forming. Now, if that's going to be the case, because there are certain areas which are very well known for crop circles, specifically in Wiltshire, a place called Alton Barnes, and one particular field is called East Field, owned by quite a well-known farmer in the area. And he says, I've never ever given permission to anybody to make a crop circle on my land. He rents the land from, I think it's King's College, Cambridge, who own a lot of land in the south of England. He said, I've never given permission to anybody to damage my crop. But virtually every year a crop circle appears on his land. And he's resigned to it now, and what he does is put a collection box, a sort of honesty box at the gate. You know, you pay your pound or your dollar or whatever if you want to enter, and it's then okay to do so, because you should always get, because fields, don't forget, are private property. You can't just wander in. You should always ask permission before you enter, because it's farmer's land, it's their property. It's like somebody walking onto your front lawn saying, oh, I hope you don't mind, I just wanted to sit down and have a little chat. So, well, get out, you know, you haven't been invited. So you should always get permission before you enter a crop circle. There are plenty of them around, and there's an annual conference in Glastonbury, obviously. Glastonbury is a place where you have these. That's one of the first places I heard these discussed. It's called the Glastonbury Symposium. It's still held, well, it was held virtually this year because of what's going on. But normally there are about maximum 300 people can attend. And people from all over the world attend. People from USA and Canada, people from Europe, Australia, they all attend because this is one of the very few open discussions about crop circles. And there are tours of crop circles conducted by people who are quite knowledgeable about the subject. So anybody who's interested in a visit to the UK, check out Glastonbury Symposium, and you'll find that there are plenty of talks discussing crop circles and other things as well. So it's still going on.
Perfect. All right. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to get you to hold on, Marcus, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Marcus Allen is here. We're talking crop circles. We have him for another hour here on Spaced Out Radio. So let's continue on here and have some fun as we continue on to learn about crop circles. Who's making them? Is it aliens? Is it humans? Is Mother Nature a true artist well beyond what we can comprehend? Marcus Allen, crop circles, your question, your chat room as well. Next, Spaced Out Radio. All right, my friend, we're clear.
That's good. Okay. Things going all right your end?
Oh, yeah, they're getting smoother. I just got to figure out which buttons to press, what screens to go to. It's amazing. You know, like, the entire system hasn't changed too much outside of the audio side. But, like, the computer side, we're still running the same programs. And I feel completely lost. Completely lost because I moved... like I changed screens on a number of things, and I moved one computer, which was on my left, it's now on my right, and I'm not used to where everything is hiding now, or placed now, so I got to get used to that as well.
Oh, that was, yeah, I was thinking it was just me who had that problem.
Oh, hell no. Oh, no. Nope.
Yeah. Tell me, have you used Zoom as a platform?
I have for other when I've been a guest on something, like on someone's show or something like that, but I haven't used it for mine yet.
Okay, yeah, same with me. I've normally I prefer Skype because I know how to use it, but more and more people seem to be using Zoom.
Yeah, it seems a little bit more reliable.
Yeah, well, Skype's always been pretty reliable for me. I've never had any problems. I've never been cut off. I've never had pictures go weird. I don't know whether it's just the program I've got or the computer I've got, because I use a Mac and not a PC.
Right.
And Skype seems to work very well on a Mac. Zoom works pretty well on it too. I've used that. As you say, I've been guests on other programs, and they'll say, well, we'll send you the Skype codes and we'll check you in when we're ready. And it seems to work just as well.
Very cool.
So any more questions coming in that?
Oh yeah, there's a few. There's a few. It's very hard because I am trying to what am I trying to say here? It's hard to take to view the questions when the chat room is moving that fast. So usually what I'll do is I'll get everybody to repost them before we come back here.
Sure. Yeah. Yes, it's surprising how fast chat can go. I've seen it going. It's too fast to read sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, these people are fast with their fingers.
Yeah, which is fine, but you still got to be able to read it when they post it. Otherwise, there's no point in them doing it, really.
Very, very right. Very right.
Dave, have crop circles ever appeared in Canada that you know of?
Apparently in Saskatchewan and Alberta and Manitoba they have. I know there was some fake ones here in British Columbia. There's apparently been crop circles in the Fraser Valley, which is east of Vancouver.
Okay.
But the media here doesn't really report on them. And, that kind of brings up a good point because the movie Signs, when Signs came out.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It caused a lot of hoaxing.
Yes.
We'll talk about that when we come back.
Okay. And I can mention some of the advertising that I was aware of that was used. A company called Nvidia.
Right.
They used it. Yeah, we talk about that. If you just guide me to where you want to be, or where you want me to be.
Yep. All right, let me take a listen here. We've got about 40 seconds. 40 seconds.
Okay. Ready when you are.
Excuse me. All right, here we go.
Okay.
There. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. Reminder that all of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam, well, he will get to his password next half hour. Reminder that you can check out all of our news on our website, spacedoutradio.com. Captain Shirk has you up to date with the SOR Newswire. You can rock out to Bumblefoot. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we are talking crop circles. From Nexus Magazine, we have our great friend Marcus Allen here. Marcus, thank you so much for joining us.
That's good, Dave. Thank you for inviting me. Pleased to be here.
Oh, anytime. Anytime. We kind of like you here. Couple questions coming from our audience here. Jason is asking, a theory said that crop circles are made from above human satellites, alien craft, something else, by a super weapon in a low power mode calibrating itself. Could this be true or ruled out?
It's an interesting question, that, actually. Very interesting, because about 20 years ago, I was giving a talk about crop circles in London, and it was based on an article that had appeared in Fortean Times, various other things I was including in the talk, and obviously people knew who I was, and I got a phone call from a couple of guys who I actually knew as crop circle fakers. Well, they're quite open about it. They have a website where they call themselves circlemakers.org, and I don't think it's been updated recently, but they were talking about it, and they said, hey, Marcus, before you give your talk, because I was going to be talking about crop circle hoaxing, could we meet? I said, I've got some information that you might find interesting. I said, go ahead. So we met up at a cafe. Bear in mind, this is about 20 years ago, and that was when you had internet cafes. Remember those?
Yes.
There was one in London called Siberia. Get it? Don't worry. Siberia. Anyway, basically it was a cafe where you could use computers to do internet stuff. And we got together there, a couple of them. Nice guys. I'd met them a couple of times before, previous talks that other people had been doing. One of which was Reg Presley of the Trogs. He was a great crop circle enthusiast. He lived in Andover in Hampshire. Anyway, these two guys, we met up and they said, look, Marcus, before you give your talk, there's something you should know. They said, you remember that crop circle that appeared near Oxford a few weeks ago? And I said, yes, I was actually familiar with it. It wasn't a particularly good crop circle, but I'd seen a picture of it and I was aware of it. And they said, we were there when that was created. I said, all right, tell me more. They said, well, there are about half a dozen of us. We'd been told to arrive at a particular location, which was the field in which the crop circle appeared, at a certain time. It was quite early in the morning. And then we would see the crop circle appearing. This is what they were telling me. And I said, how do you know? Who told you? Well, where did the information come from? Oh, we can't tell you that. Security. Oh, okay. So obviously there are certain things that can't be discussed. I said, well, what was it you were watching? They said, we were watching a crop circle forming, created by a satellite overhead testing its instruments. I said, what are you talking about? Satellite instruments making crop circles. Yes. Some of the military are testing out particular frequencies and using them in a certain way from a satellite. They can create crop circles. I said, oh, that's fascinating. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. You can create crop circles from satellites, can you? How do you know? And they said, well, we've been working on the technology behind it. I said, oh, that's why it's so secret, because it's all military, is it? He said, well, there's certain things we can't discuss. And I said, okay, well, that's probably the end of it. What they were hoping for was that when I was giving my talk, because the talk, which had been promoted quite well, every known hoaxer in the UK was present, which was rather flattering for me. And what they had expected me to say was that I knew how crop circles were made. It was all made by satellites, and it was all military, and it was all very hush-hush, and we couldn't discuss it anymore. I didn't say that because I don't believe it. I've seen no evidence to support that as an idea. But there were people around at the time who were known to be connected with the intelligence services, which is, I always find that a rather strange term, intelligence and service, in the same sentence. Because if they were so keen on finding out about crop circles, why weren't they upfront about it and ask the right people? Because there were plenty of people around who could discuss it quite sensibly, because they'd spent a lot of time investigating it. And there was an organization in the UK called the Centre for Crop Circle Studies, and they produced a monthly magazine. There's another magazine called The Cerealogist. It was produced for about 3 or 4 years. Has some very, very interesting articles in it. People discussing the idea of crop circles, not being made by secret military satellites or anything like that, because to be honest, I don't think a satellite has the ability or the power to produce what we see in the field. I don't think it has any sufficient power. And anyway, a satellite is moving quite fast. And if it was low enough to be able to do it, not that you'd see the satellite, but it'd be moving so fast that it would be across the field in about 2 seconds. You wouldn't have time to do it unless it was a photograph. So you've got all these anomalous situations where people are being diverted into areas of supposed belief. Oh, you know how crop circles are made, it's military satellites. No, they're not. There's no evidence for that whatsoever. It's a suggestion, it's a hypothesis. It's an idea that could be possible. But if it's not proven to be possible by a demonstration that is conclusive, it's yet another of those stories that could be true, but we don't know area. So you've got all these things going on, people diverting attention for it. There are certainly people around, certainly around about 20, 25 years ago, who were certainly interested in what was going on in the crop circle community, as it was called at the time. This is people who were out looking in the fields and trying to photograph it and getting up in helicopters and photographing it and talking about it, having conferences. There was quite a big community around. There still is quite a big community around, but there haven't been any answers yet. And the intelligence services were certainly out there. And I expect most people are familiar with the famous story of Doug and Dave. Doug and Dave, these two elderly gentlemen from Hampshire who were publicized in a newspaper in the UK in 1991. "We made all the crop circles," was the headline. And it appeared to show that they had gone out, after they'd been in the pub for a little while, producing a lot of crop circles, and they showed how they did it using stamping boards. And they had a baseball cap with a little wire sighting line in it. And they claimed to have made all the crop circles, and people believed them. Well, there was no evidence whatsoever that they produced more than about half a dozen crop circles. They may well have done. But it doesn't prove that. I mean, both of them have died now, and the crop circles are still appearing. So they must have passed their information and skill on to many, many other people, because let's say about 35, 40 crop circles have appeared in the UK this year. This is between June and September. That's 4 months, 16 weeks. That's 2 a week, minimum, 3 a week for the whole summer. Well, what were they doing? Who paid them? It makes no sense that there are people out there wandering around the fields of Wiltshire and Hampshire producing these really quite spectacularly beautiful formations without being caught, without making mistakes, without getting anything out of kilter, without being found. It makes no sense, especially as virtually every field in which crop circles are known to appear in Wiltshire are being watched at night. And there have been certain occasions when people have been watching fields at night and have seen something moving in the field. I don't know what it was, because when it's dark enough, it's very hard to see individual people at the distance they were watching from, but they filmed it. And what they filmed was a crop circle appearing in the film, not somebody making it. And the crop circle was 800 foot long. So I don't believe that the area of crop that has to be flattened with these stamping boards or garden rollers or however they do it is so big that it would take several hours to produce one. You know, you take a crop circle 70 foot in diameter using a 3 foot board going around in circles. How far do you walk? And how long would it take you? And when you've got to do another 20 along the same time, it makes no sense. So there are so many anomalies in the story, so many holes in the story, that it makes more sense to believe that what I described as flying light bulbs, little glowing balls of light, have some form of intelligent control, and that is what is producing it. Now, then that opens up a whole new can of worms. So is that ET? Is it something on this earth? Is it ball lightning that's been described as an answer? Is it somebody who is fabricating these magnificent formations and seeing the effect they have on people? Well, why not just ask? Why not make it more public? Why make it such a mystery? It's been going on now for over 30 years, 30, 40 years, this has been going on. And 10,000 formations have appeared in that time around the world. It makes no sense that it's just done as land art by anonymous people who cannot take credit for any of the work they've done because they're not publicly known. I don't know what the answer is, but the mystery is there. So when I say it's the mystery of crop circles, it's the mystery of their origin, it's the mystery of the meaning of them, because you can start looking into the geometry of some of these crop circles is highly sophisticated. 8-part, 10-part geometry. It's as if there is information being passed from some intelligence to people here on Earth who are intelligent enough to identify it, to be able to interpret it. And it could well be that some of it is information that we do need. How to produce limitless energy with no pollution would be one.
Right. Let's get to Corey's question here. And Corrence is asking, has anybody ever been harmed by crop circle formations?
That's a good point, actually. Very good point. To my knowledge, no, they haven't. People have claimed to have been healed by going inside a crop circle. Some sort of energy has enabled them to recover from a previous disability or injury, but not harmed. Or maybe they tripped over a fence or fell down a pothole. But crop circles themselves, to my knowledge, have not caused any physical injury to anybody. But it's an interesting point, because if they were malevolent, you would expect there to be injuries. You would expect there to be people reporting things. I mentioned the business about batteries in cameras draining.
Right.
That's a phenomenon that's been reported many times by many people. It actually happened to me. I took a camera into a crop circle and couldn't get the damn thing to work. Come outside the crop circle, it's still working. What's going on? I don't know. Maybe there is a form of energy that is residual within it. There have certainly been indications that a crop circle has appeared quite near to where I live down in Sussex in the UK. And it was basically a white powder that just was in the middle of a crop circle, sort of, like flour, sort of white powder, not very much of it. I took it away for analysis. Somebody decided to have a look at it. And the nearest answer they could get to what this white powder was, it was white powder gold. I don't know if you've ever heard of white powder gold, but it's a real phenomenon. It's what happens if you take gold bullion and heat it in a crucible beyond the point at which it melts, because obviously gold will go molten and melt, become liquid gold. If you continue to heat it, it becomes a white powder. What? I hear you say, a white powder? How is that? Yes, it does. It becomes a white powder. That's why it's called white powder gold. And it has properties which are quite extraordinary. I don't think this is necessarily the time to go into it, but you can check it out. Look at white powder gold. It's supposed to have appeared in Egypt, in the Great Pyramid. When it was first entered, there was white powder all over the place, and it can be manufactured. It's what's used to enhance intelligence. And some of the ancient hieroglyphs would indicate that some of the priests and the pharaohs were given the white powder gold to enhance their intelligence. That's the story. If that is the case, then it is something which is obviously going to be of extreme value. People have researched it. It's been demonstrated that it does produce a white powder, which has superconducting properties and anti-gravity properties, which is not a whole rabbit hole to go down at some point. But this appeared in a crop circle. What's going on?
Antonio says when he was younger, he was walking across a field when the tall grass in front of him for about 50 meters just flattened. At the same time, he got extremely anxious and nauseous as well. Have you heard of things like that happening?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's one of the most common phenomena. It's interesting that, because crop circles have appeared in grass. It's not just wheat and barley and canola and corn, and they've appeared in trees and on ice and on sand. They've appeared in many places. Certainly grass is one of them, but it's not so easy to see it in grass. So obviously if you were physically there and you saw the grass flatten, it could well be that this was a crop circle in embryo form. But because it wasn't necessarily the right sort of grass, because grass isn't a very good medium for crop circles to appear in, or the formations to appear in, because it's usually not tall enough and it's not strong enough. But if you actually saw it being flattened in front of you, this would indicate that there was something very similar. And this is similar to other reports which I've heard about, because friends of mine have researched it quite deeply. Other reports say the same thing. It suddenly appears in front of you, almost in a few seconds. It's not hours. It's as if a hand appears above you and flattens the field, in this case a field of corn, flattens it into a formation. and it's almost too fast to see it. You're obviously aware of what's happened afterwards because you can see it in front of you. And this would certainly be the sort of case. So it's not unusual to have seen something like that. In fact, that's probably an indication that you were close to a crop circle. And the idea that you were feeling nauseous, feeling a little uncomfortable, would also tie in with other reports of the same thing, where people begin to feel a degree of nervousness, not fright. It isn't usually an unpleasant sensation. It's because it's so unusual, because it's something that happens when you're not expecting it, and something that is that you're completely unprepared for, would cause your conscious mind to be a little bit discombobulated. You'd feel a little uneasy about what was going on because you couldn't explain it. There were no points of reference for you, which would account for the unease and the nauseous. So yeah, I mean, that I would say that you probably did see a crop circle in embryo form close by, and the feelings that you had would indicate that there's a form of energy around it which can have a physical effect on humans. Maybe that's its purpose. You'd be jolted. You think, because something happened that has never happened to you before, and you've got to live with it because you can't unsee it. So you now have to incorporate it into your life. That particular thing, that particular idea is the point at which many people depart from and go off into extraordinary areas of research.
Question coming from Dark Hour. How come the majority of crop circles that appear in fields have no entryway or exit? Therefore, if it were human beings making these designs, you would see some evidence of entry.
Good point, actually, very good point. One should bear in mind one thing. In the UK, virtually every field has what are referred to colloquially as tram lines. They're actually the lines made by the tractors spraying the fertilizer or the pesticide onto the crop. And they're two parallel lines, the width of a tractor, and they're about 50 foot apart because the booms that they use to spray the crop are about 25 feet each one. So each tram line is about 50, 60 foot from the next one. So there are entry points into fields in the UK. In Canada, probably not so much because the fields are so huge, so vast, that the spraying is done by air from planes, crop dusting, rather than tractors which leave marks. And if you examine the pictures on cropcircleconnector.com, which has probably got the most up-to-date ones, you'll see a lot of pictures and they have these tram lines in them. And those are the points that people use to enter a crop circle if they're going to visit it, because it will almost certainly intercept the crop circle at some point. Most crop circles are between 150, 250 feet in diameter, quite large. And the tram lines are about 50, 60 feet apart, so obviously they're going to intercept at some point. So there are entry points which you would not be able to see an individual walking into it, because where the tractor goes, it's about a foot wide, where the tractor tire is quite large. So you can enter a crop circle quite easily. But, and here's the interesting point, if you look at many crop circles, many are circular. And if you're going to make a circle, you have to have a center point for that circle. If you're hoaxing it, or if you're making it, if people are making it, they will use a big tape measure or a piece of rope, something quite light, because if it's too heavy and it's 100 feet length, it'll start dangling down into the crop and you'll see the damage it would create. But somebody's got to stand in the middle so that somebody can walk around the outside to make the circle. And quite often you don't see any mark in the center of a crop circle. None at all. Now, there are ways to do it. You can put tripods in, and that has been done, because about 25 years ago they had a crop circle making competition see how many people could achieve some basically quite simple crop circle, but they had features in them which had appeared in the fields, and they wanted to see if people could reproduce them. And about 20 teams of people appeared, and they did it over about a 4-hour period in daylight, and it was filmed, and the farmer was totally willing to have it done because he was paid for the crop that was damaged. And to be honest, they were amateur. The lines weren't straight, the circles weren't properly circular, the crop wasn't flattened properly. It was amateur hour. 1 or 2 were reasonably passable, but that's about all.
My friend, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Our good friend tonight and good friend of this show is Mr. Marcus Allen, and we are going to continue with another half an hour of Crop Circle Talk. We'll get your questions in as well, along with going to Vancouver. At the bottom of hour number 3, we join up with Shane in the shift to talk a little UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, whatever comes up in the topic du jour. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, my friend, we're clear?
Oh, that's good. Okay. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned Bigfoot. I'm fascinated by that.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'll be right back, okay?
Okay,
a couple seconds here.
Some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world. Relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and we have some cool swag for you to pick up. All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the story you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get from Little Brother Is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother Is Watching.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightline Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website, and let's figure out what's going on together.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spicing up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire.
All right, my friend, I am back.
Well done. Okay, here we go. Yeah, things going all right for you over there now?
Oh, yeah, we're getting there.
That's good. Yeah, on the subject of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Are they real?
I think so. I've seen them.
You have?
I've seen two. I've heard them talk. What they are, I don't know.
Right.
I'm not fully convinced that they are some sort of creature of natural phenomenon. I'm just not sure.
Okay. Have you heard of the Alma in Altai in Russia?
No.
That's basically the Russian equivalent of Bigfoot.
Oh, really?
They're called Alma. And there have been some uncorroborated cases of human Alma interaction.
Oh, that's interesting.
They appear to be what many people consider them. They're sort of a semi-primitive human. But if you can breed with them, and that appears to be what happened, that they did produce a live birth.
Oh, really?
Having got together with a human, yes. I don't know how true it is, but they certainly have been identified in the Altai Mountains, which is in eastern Russia, between Russia and Mongolia. And there's the same creature in Australia as well. I forget what they call them in Australia.
Yowies.
Yowie, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, my friend. Hold on. We got about 15 seconds here.
Okay, let's go.
All right.
If you'd like to connect with us, head to spacedoutradio.com for all of your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We really do appreciate it. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Obscurantism. Obscurantism is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight, for the final time, we introduce Marcus Allen. He is a second-time appearance on this show. We're talking crop circles all night long. Who is causing them? What is going on? How are they being made? We could go for another few hours on this and not even scratch the surface. But, Marcus, we got you till the bottom of the hour. I want to say thank you for joining us tonight.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Dave.
Do you believe, then, that crop circles are created by aliens?
Good question. I can't answer that because I don't know. They're created by something that we don't fully understand. Whether it's aliens, whether it's ET coming along and saying, look, guys, you know, we're here, Because crop circles are basically a form of communication. You can see the results. Who makes them? That's what we don't know. And even if we did know the answer, all right, let's say that it's ET in some form, an extraterrestrial. He's making, what's he doing? Making these beautiful patterns in the fields, basically in southern England, where where the most of them appear. They do appear around the world, and they have appeared in Canada, but most of them appear in the fields of southern England. What is going on? Is it a form of communication? That's about as close as one can get, but it's very hard to have a one-way conversation because we don't know who we're talking to. All right, let's say it's ET. Let's say he's coming along in some form. He's obviously very good at not being seen if he doesn't want to be, but he leaves marks in the fields as if to say, I was here. What do you think of this? And it's an exciting area because I will say that it's crop circles which got me to the point where I distribute Nexus Magazine in the UK and Europe because of my interest in finding out about things I didn't fully grasp at the time. Having a regular job with a regular company, it's not the sort of thing I would have expected to happen, but it did. I came across crop circles and thought, oh, I want to find out more about this. Went to conferences, talked to people, joined groups discussing it. And that was 30 years ago. Really no further forward, but it's been a fascinating journey. And that's maybe all that crop circles are, that they're an introduction to other worlds, to other areas. Quite interesting areas, interesting insofar as they're places that we don't normally go to, because patterns in a field, it seems a weird way to communicate, but they exist. They do communicate. They communicate at a very deep level because you can look at the patterns and they're just beautiful to look at. They don't mean anything as such. They're not a message. There are occasionally messages, and a few companies, NVIDIA being one, have used crop circles as a form of publicity. They hired people from the UK to come over to California and make a crop circle in a field and try to big it up as being created by aliens. Basically, it was the shape of their new GPU, graphic processing unit. And it was a very good way to do it because people took a lot of notice of it. Other companies use it. Nike have used crop circles. Car companies have used crop circles. You know, you make a nice picture of a car in the field and people take notice of it. It's a form of communication. But the geometric formations that we see have no meaning as such that we can identify. Maybe they're two-dimensional representations of a three-dimensional object. But nobody's yet worked out what that three-dimensional object is. They try to, and there are many discussions about it, and there are books being written about it. I first read crop circle books about 30 years ago. People have studied it in considerable detail. Michael Glickman, who recently passed away, has written some very, very remarkable books, one of which is called Bones of God. Michael writes in a very amusing way. He was trained as an architect, so he was fully aware of what he was looking at. And what he was looking at was some very, very sophisticated designs in two dimensions. And you get into all sorts of exciting areas when you start following down the rabbit hole of crop circles, because it's a sort of area that you can discuss with people. It's not threatening in any way. It's not conspiratorial in any way. It's just a nice subject to look at. And people do find it fascinating to look at it. They find it absolutely enthralling to look at the huge number of shapes. And no two crop circles have ever appeared the same. And some designs have appeared in sand, in the deserts in Western America. Huge mandala shapes. Nobody knows who made those. And there's one in Australia, which is about a mile long, shows a human who can be seen from space. So you've got all these different aspects to it. Whether they're connected, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. The interesting thing is that the communication that it creates, the interest it creates, is the main point. Now, if it is made by ET, and ET is coming along and saying, look, I'm making all these shapes for you. See if you can work out what they mean. See if you can decipher what I'm trying to tell you. And if he's doing that, I think that's fascinating. I have no idea if it's true or not, but it's as true as any other explanation for crop circles could be, because what is it about crop circles that people find fascinating? They travel across the world to look at them. And people come from all over the world to look at the crop circles in England, because that's where most of them appear. It's easy to travel around the UK. And basically, we do drive on the correct side of the road.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
We drive on the correct side of the road.
We drive on the correct side of the road here.
There is a reason we drive on the left in the UK.
It's because you're backwards.
No, it's because... Shall I explain why we drive on the left?
Sure.
Okay. Most people are right-handed. So when you had to defend yourself, you would use your sword or your gun in your right hand. And somebody who was going to attack you would approach you with their gun and their sword in their right hand, so they would approach from the right. So in order to defend yourself, you would walk with your left-hand side to the hedge or the ditch, because in the UK they're quite small roads, and you would walk along on the left-hand side of the road. You do the same on a horseback. So when cars came along, they had to fit in with all the horses and all the carriages, so they put the steering wheel on the right so they could fit in with everybody else, and they just peer out and see if they could overtake. They weren't very fast in the early days, which is why they had a man with a red flag in front to warn everybody about this strange device coming along the road. But he would be on the left-hand side of the road. Now, the French, always wanting to do things different to the English, would drive on the right, because it was different. And in America, you didn't have these small fields and little roads, so it didn't really matter. You could do it. And most people being right-handed, of course, if the steering wheel is on the right-hand side of the car, you had to change gear with your left hand, which is not so strong. And the early cars had very, very difficult to operate shift stick, I think they're called, gearboxes. So in America, being a practical place, they said, oh, forget all this shift stick, let's put the steering wheel on the left and we'll change gear with our right hand because it's stronger. And they still couldn't get the gearbox to work properly, so they made them automatic, so you didn't have to worry. But they still put the steering wheel on the left. And if you look at some of the very early pictures taken in America, many at San Francisco, 1906, you'll see quite a lot of the cars there have the steering wheel on the right-hand side, because they were using designs imported from Britain. Same with Japan. That's why Japan drives on the left, because most of the early cars there were imported from the UK, specifically Austin and Ford. That's the English Ford, not the American Ford. In India, same thing there. They all drive on the left, because that's what the first cars in India were imported in from the UK. And they all had a steering wheel on the left. Steering wheel on the right, so they drove on the left. And virtually all Australia do the same thing. So quite a lot of countries around the world, quite a lot of people around the world drive on the left, because they took their cue from Britain.
Oh, you Commonwealthers. You Commonwealthers.
But see, Canada is different, because you had to follow America, didn't you?
No, we just decided that we wanted to drive on the proper side, just to screw things up a little bit. So that's what we did. Now, seriously.
Okay.
Seriously. Okay. Let's see what we got here, because I know we do have some questions from our audience here, and you're not convinced that aliens are there. Let's go to Jason's questions. Do crop circles bounce back? Plants go back to being upright? If so, how long does this typically take? Hours, weeks, days?
Good point. No, they don't bounce back. Even if they've not been trodden on by people visiting them, they will never bounce back. But the plant is still alive. You can still harvest it, and the wheat or the barley or whatever crop it is can still be harvested. If it is, there are certain situations in which the plant will bounce back. If it's been blown over by the wind, it's not been forced as low as it would be in a crop circle. Therefore, it will grow back towards the sun, because all plants grow towards the sun. If it's been wind damaged, that can sometimes grow back, but I've never seen or heard of a crop circle growing back, unless it's been put down so lightly. Maybe it's been very early in the season, so June, July, or May and June. If the plant is not fully grown at the point it is put into its formation, it will return and grow back towards the sun. So the formation will appear to almost disappear. But a formation never completely disappears, because you can visit a field in which there has been a formation, even after the formation has been harvested. So if the farmer was able to get his combine blades down low enough, which they can do, to lift the crop up and harvest it, there will still be a faint imprint of the formation remaining in the cut corn. It's quite extraordinary how you can see it the following year. And then when the field then starts to grow again the next year, sometimes the formation will appear in ghost-like image, because there is a different growing rate within a crop circle to outside a crop circle. You can see a faint image of a previous year's formation. It's quite unusual to see it, but there are examples of it occurring. So you've got all these anomalies around the crop circle. So the idea that it's made entirely by humans, I think, can be discounted, because the evidence does not support it. And there are people who will try to persuade you that it's all made by humans, because then you won't go looking for other possible explanations. And I think that is the sole purpose of crop circles, is to open the discussion, not about crop circles, but about so many other areas which we're not certain about, whether it's ET, whether it's some form of earth energy, whether it's some form of energy from the atmosphere, whether it's meteorological. It doesn't really matter. The formation itself is what matters, and the impact that will have on you. You know, it's the same as listening to a beautiful piece of music, looking at a beautiful painting or the Sistine Chapel ceiling, that sort of thing. People are affected by great art. They can't necessarily explain how they're affected or why they're affected. They just know that they are, that they've seen something which has been created by man in most cases in that situation. But if it's something that's created by an unidentified creator, such as a crop circle, there's a whole new range of questions that come into the equation at that point. Who is it? What is it? What's it about? What does it mean? How do I understand? How do I incorporate this into what I believe? It's that question that I suggested at the beginning.
Right.
Why do you believe? What do you believe?
Right. I love Corey's question here. He is asking, have there been people who have actually eaten the crops from these crop circles? And if so, were there any side effects?
Oh yes, that's quite a common thing to do. People will harvest the crop, or with the farmer's permission, obviously, they will take part of the crop that is within a formation and will then plant it the next year. And invariably, the new crop grows faster and better and stronger than the previous year. They've also baked it into bread, made from wheat. I've never heard of any adverse effects. I don't know if it tastes any different. I would doubt it, to be honest, because there's no reason why there should be a difference in taste. It's the difference in growth speed. And there was a lot of experiments being done in America, I think on the East Coast. As Professor Levengood, he's died now, but he was doing a lot of work with some of the people in America who were interested, and we were sending samples across, identifying where in the formation these samples came from, and he was identifying growth patterns within the crop. So there's been quite a bit of biological research into crop circles as well. There's no definitive answers that I'm aware of, except that the crop does seem to be, if it's planted the next year, it does seem to be a better crop. I'm not sure if that is the sole purpose of a crop circle, to produce better crops. It could be, because if we identify the energy that created the crop circle in the first place, whether it's electronic, radionic, with radiative energy, it affects the plant. For a start, it pushes it over, so you can see it on the ground. But whether it then causes changes in the molecular structure or the biological structure of the plant, I think is a harder question to answer. There have been people who've experimented with it, and they do claim to have identified increased growth within the plant. That's all I know at this point. But no, adverse effects, no. I've never heard of any adverse effects from eating anything that was originally in a crop circle. Quite the reverse.
All right, let's get to another question here from Jules, who is asking, Marcus, do you think that it may be a form of somatics on crops?
It could be. It could be. That's as close as anybody's ever come, that somatics, which is sound producing patterns, if I understand it correctly. Normally it's done with sand, using a plate close to a loudspeaker, which produce extraordinary patterns. Some of them could well be. There's no reason not. Whether there is sound, I've never heard a sound connected with crop circles. There have been visual sightings of unexplained patterns in the sky, because obviously sound can produce a pattern in moisture, and if it's a damp atmosphere, you'll get the sound producing a pattern. But that's quite rare. Not many people have seen that. People have seen columns of what appear to be not light so much as disturbance in the atmosphere, as if it's coming from somewhere up. It could be coming from down, because how do we know that the Earth does not produce its own sound? It does. It's the human resonance. So it 8 hertz is the sound of the Earth, and that's connected with the Great Pyramid. It could be connected with crop circles as well. Interesting area. Again, there's so many areas that could be researched, so many areas that people could follow up on. But because there's no end in sight, there's no definitive answer, people sometimes get a little discouraged. The important thing is that it's still there. Crop circles still appearing, despite what anybody might say, and mainstream media tends to ignore them because they can't explain them.
All right, let's sneak in another question here. This one is from Cameron, and he is asking, how far back do stories of crop circles go back in history?
It's a good point, actually, because I've been talking about it as if it's something that's happened in the last 30 years or so. The first recorded example of a crop circle being illustrated in a pamphlet appeared in 1678. That's 350 odd years ago. There have been intermittent reports of crop circles, and obviously during World War II there was a lot of aerial photography went on. People have examined a lot of the aerial photographs from southern England and have identified a few circular formations. Nothing spectacular, but they have been around there. There have been reports going back to the 1920s in newspapers in the UK of unexplained patterns appearing in crops, but there were very few photographs going back much more than about 35 years. It started really in the UK, I suppose, mid-1980s. I could date it from that point. It's really only the last 30 years, since about 1990. I mentioned the Led Zeppelin album with the crop circle on the cover. Led Zeppelin being a very well-known group at the time. My son had it. They're used in jewelry, because they're such beautiful designs. But going back into history, I think the 1678 one is the first one that anybody's been able to identify. And it's on a pamphlet that was found in the British Library, which is interesting. I don't know how it was first found, but it's been publicized quite broadly since then. So yeah, that's probably the first appearance of a crop circle.
My friend, we only got about 25 seconds left with you tonight, and I want to say a big thank you for you coming in and being with us here on Spaced Out Radio once again. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here, Marcus, and I'll be honest with you, in a few months we have to do it again because I always feel smarter after hearing you on the air with us. I do.
You're very kind, sir. Just one thing. The next issue of Nexus Magazine is appearing in Canada early next month. We'll have the annual roundup of crop circles in it.
Perfect.
Written by Andy Thomas. So Nexus Magazine, there you are. Order your copy now, and you can get an up-to-date explanation of what's been happening in the last year in crop circles.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marcus Allen, and we will talk to you again very soon. Coming up next, we're going to join Shane with the shift out of Vancouver, go right across Canada. Then we'll get to the thought of the day as well. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. Good job, boss.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Very good. That was great.
You were fantastic once again. I don't know what the hell we're going to talk about next time, but I'd like to get you around January if you don't mind.
We could talk about ancient Egypt, the Great Pyramids, the mysteries, some of those that I've been looking at.
I'll let you and Corns, the booking guy, set that up, but we'll definitely set you up for January. Is that cool with you?
That's great. Yeah.
All right.
Near to my birthday.
Beautiful. Beautiful. When's your birthday?
24th January.
Oh, my daughter's the 17th.
There you go. Aquarius, you see.
Yes. She'll be the big 22.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, good for you.
Yes.
Hope she's doing well.
I hope so, too. All right, my friend. You take care. We'll talk to you very soon, okay?
Thanks, Dave. Look forward to it.
Good night.
Good night.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. That's just wonderful. Just wonderful. Cords, you heard that, I hope. Yes, indeed. That is going to be fantastic times. Fantastic times. All right, we're just going to wait for I got to get Captain Shirk's news in here. And let me find these. We've got a couple stories in here just in case. And there's Vancouver. All right. Hey, Vancouver, how you doing?
Dave Scott, Spaced Out Radio. How's it going tonight?
Good. How am I sounding for you?
Sounding pretty good. Yeah, how's the new studio faring?
Well, we have a few quirks, a few kinks that we're trying to work out. We'll get there.
Right on, right on. Yeah, like sounding pretty good. I would say it's a little maybe more telephony than we're usually used to hearing your voice on.
You sound very telephonish.
Yeah, we're having a problem with the receiver on this end. I think somebody had a bad night on the phones, but
I'm going to blame that on your end because my end I just got off the phone with my guest and he said we were sounding very clear. Very clear.
Okay, that's sounding pretty good. I was just, may I had some reception issues on here. But yeah, no, you're definitely sounding good, Dave.
All right, cool. Works for me.
All right. Yeah, so we're about 2 minutes away, or let me see, about 2 minutes away here. We're on with Shane tonight, and we're all good to go.
Yeah, I apologize for not having anything really up to date. Just this whole studio thing just kind of has kicked my butt here pretty bad, so...
I know, I bet.
Yeah, so we could go wherever he wants tonight, that's for sure.
Cool, man, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's always a pleasure to have you, no matter what. So it's all good, man.
For sure.
All right. So I'll be with you in about a minute or so here.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Keep your family safe. Protect your home from pests with Westside Pest Control. Local businesses are asking, what is the ideal marketing mix? Now there's a lofty question. Here's what our CKNW sales team knows. Our radio...
I'll turn that down. So that way we can get our stuff done here, as we normally do. And, that's what we will do. That's what we'll totally do. How y'all doing, YouTube? Once again, I apologize for the whole, my voice being off my, my video thing. We'll get that cleared up here, hopefully by tomorrow. Tomorrow we have an awesome show. Awesome show. All right, here we go. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune us in tonight. We want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. We're going to be joining Vancouver here momentarily here, as Shane is getting ready to have us for the shift, where we are going to talk all things weird and strange here.
Just waiting for Dave
Shane,
Scott.
how you doing?
Dave Scott is the king of the promo.
What do you mean?
Promo and everything.
Yeah,
So good.
well, somebody has to, my friend. Somebody has to.
Good.
You need some new
I'm
cuts.
glad.
You need some new cuts for your show. I'll hop on there.
You want a promo?
I'll promo.
We're working on some stuff right now. We should. Oh, you just got Matt thinking. I can see his face. That was his thinking face. The light bulb was going off there. Dave Scott, what did you do? You might have started something.
Well, I
he's
felt
looking
it from
excited.
here. I felt it from here, brother.
All right, so here we are, spacedoutradio.com with Dave Scott, here on the shift as we broadcast all across Canada. There's a few places that I was hoping we could go tonight, Dave.
Let's do this.
Dig into a couple of things. I was listening to the program earlier on, yours, and caught a couple of pieces that got me curious, and I thought maybe you could share some of those pieces too. So let's kind of get into this. But before we do that, it is Good News Tuesday-ish here on the show, which we do on the shift every Tuesday, where we share good news. For example, one of the listeners has got a match for his wife's kidney. It says good news. Another listener found his cat.
That is
right.
awesome.
So we do good news. So what kind of good news do you have? I know you've been working on the studio. Maybe there's some good news there. What kind of good news does Dave Scott and Spaced Out Radio have for us?
All right. Good news comes like this. We actually have a show going on. Because, when you are as non-technical as I am, all right, and I am trying to set up an entire studio with over a phone call from California, it is very difficult. And I'm proud to say that I survived this, and that I'm able to do this job. No, on a serious note, I had some good news. I had some very good friends come up this past weekend from Vancouver, Malcolm and Linda, who are very talented performers and singers, and we took them out looking for Bigfoot. We took them out, and showed the area around here. They had never really been up here before. And I'm still kind of buzzing over that because I haven't stayed up that late in a long time and just hanging out and cherishing some moments with friends. So I'm pretty thankful for that, to be absolutely honest.
That is good news. That is good. Matt, I think, does that good news warrant us for some good news here? I think we should probably, one thing we do here, Dave Scott, is we always celebrate the good news. And so this is how we celebrate it to all your listeners, because it is good news, Matt. Good news! It is good news. Time with friends is always good news. So thank you very much, Dave Scott.
No
Spaced
problem.
Out Radio. Okay, paranormal, Dave.
Yes.
I wanted to get into the spooky folks, the spooky ghosts and all those things.
We can do this.
Do we see a rise in paranormal activity I've just got a bunch of questions, at this time of year, or is it just that we're more in tune to the Halloween and the spooky?
As the stores start packing the candy in for Halloween, and we start thinking about costumes and Halloween parties and taking kids trick-or-treating, it becomes a little bit more on the mind. Does it mean things are more haunted? No, not at all. The hauntings have always been there. All right, but the problem that we have is everybody only wants to play ghostly and spooky stuff when it comes closer to Halloween. So with about 7 weeks left, I will proudly tell people point blank that no, things are not more haunted for you. You're not noticing a lot more hauntings. It's always been there. You just don't accept it the other 11 months out of the year. That's pretty much how it goes. So, I mean...
opening up our mind a little bit.
Well, we want to feel scared, and we want to get spooked out. We want to get creeped out. Most people talk about it. They don't understand what it's like to actually live in a haunted house or work in a haunted building. And it is not fun for a lot of people. I mean, all you have to do is go to some historic sites, from Fort Langley in New Westminster all the way to Montreal and Halifax and Toronto. Okay, there are many of old taverns and castles there and places that people walk upon every day, and they have no idea how haunted they are. They have no idea because they're not paying attention. But all of a sudden comes Halloween once a year, and we want to hear that spooky story. And I'll guarantee you, if you're in Gastown or you're on Yonge Street or you're visiting downtown Old Montreal and you start asking servers or bartenders or waiters or waitresses any sort of question about whether or not there's ghosts, you're definitely going to get an answer. There's always something strange going on. And, that's how we open up to the phenomena. My encouragement to people would be to continue it all year round. It doesn't mean you're going to be a paranormal investigator or you have to do it all the time. But you know what? Finding out, it makes kind of a cool little fun mystery that you can play along with. Now, some people will say, well, I'm playing with the devil. I'm playing with Beelzebub himself, trying to, put these thoughts in my head that there is something cursed about dealing with the paranormal. But the reality is it's not. And we all have a curiosity to figure out whether or not anything is going to happen after we are dead. Plain and simple. We all have a check-in date. We all have a check-out date. So when we check out, what happens?
Okay, so listening, staying open-minded, and maybe we just kind of fall into that with the routine of the fall and the Halloween and the Day of the Dead and all those kinds of things. So then do we represent it properly? Because most people's experience of hauntings, you spoke about, say, servers in restaurants, old buildings, stuff like that, the experience of it, they know what that is. They've gone through that. People have had a paranormal experience. They know what that feels like. For people who haven't, does it get represented well on TV?
No.
Because I'm not sure that even the Hollywood stuff, no, but even the some of the paranormal TV shows, I still don't think they even represent it very well.
My friend, 9/10 of the paranormal community does not show it very well. You know, this is something there is no education. Okay, a lot of people will learn what they learn from watching the television shows, and you know, some are real, some are not. The one that I would suggest everybody watches is the Holzer Files with a good friend of ours, Dave Schrader, who is an amazing broadcaster as well as a paranormal investigator. I mean, that's probably as real as it gets. I know Dave personally, but there's a lot of shows out there that have been accused of forging evidence and forging hauntings and ghost activity. It's not cool. Then you have the paranormal weekend warriors who go out there and everything's a ghost, everything's a demon. You know, the best thing that I could say is do your homework. All right? If this is something that interests you and you want to learn about it, do your homework and just don't go join the local paranormal group. Take the time to investigate what they're all about. You know, it's easy to find out on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. I mean, you got to think. Every city has approximately anywhere between 5 to 20 ghost hunting teams out there. And it's a little too much. Some are going to be good, some are going to be not so good, and some are going to be downright horrible. And the biggest advice that I will give to people is this. If you have ghosts in your house, the best thing that you can do is do not invite any paranormal team that you find on Google over to your house. Do your investigation. Hell, give us a phone call, give us a message. We will be able to potentially help you out and put somebody who we trust in that field, because so many people think they know what they're doing. They think they have the answers. But the one thing that is 100% certain in the field of ghosts, there are no answers. There are no experts, and there's nobody who knows truly what is going on. And that's why it's so much fun, is because we all get to learn together.
So good. I absolutely love it. So the other question I wanted to ask you, Dave Scott.
Sure.
Now, I don't want duplicity on your show, but I think it's interesting to me. You talked about moon landing stuff.
Yes.
And you've talked about it with Marcus Allen.
Yes.
And I realize that he tells the story because that's his thing, right? He does a good job. But I was just so curious because I've been watching the Challenger show, the documentary on Netflix with my kids, and they asked the question, did we really land on the moon? And that was just a couple of days ago. So they're seeing that conversation as teenagers today. So it did make me a little bit curious, and I thought I'd ask about it.
You know what? The biggest problem that we have today is you carry as much technology in your hand with your cell phone that was on the Apollo 11 mission on that rocket. That's scary. Now, I disagree with Marcus in that I believe we did land on the moon. Now, I do believe that we were told maybe to get off the moon and not come back for a long time because us pesky humans are like moths to a flame, and the aliens don't want us there. Hey, I got to wear tinfoil sometime. All right, but I do believe we went to the moon. But there are some curiosities as to whether or not there was actual film footage that was taken in studio, created by Stanley Kubrick, you know, thanks to the 2001 Space Odyssey. That is the big conspiracy theory right there. I mean, you know, little things like the camera. Where was the camera when we were when Neil Armstrong was coming off the ladder? Okay, who was taking that video, or what was taking that video? How did they get the camera there? Did they set it up first, and then Neil went back up and then walked back down to say his famous, you know, one step for man, one giant leap for mankind? You know, or was it something a little bit different? You know, this is all something, you know, when they planted the American flag in the ground, okay, was it really waving? Shadows? How come there was no sand being pushed out of the way when the landing gear went down? You know, from the thrusters.
The answer to the picture.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot that is going on right now, right? A lot that's going on right now. So, I mean, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
The
connections, like some of the audio connections and the video stuff and all those things. I mean, you know, there was an awful lot of stuff going on, right? technology-wise, that to make it even possible or not possible. So, I mean, is it possible a little bit of both happened? There was a little bit of a pre-prepared video, and then they might have actually done it, but the video was fake?
Could be. Maybe the original video didn't turn out, and Stanley Kubrick created a good one. Or maybe they mixed the two. There is all sorts of interesting stuff that could be there. But I do believe we went to the moon. The more interesting theory to me, my friend, is were we asked not to come back? Okay, because there is an alleged audio recording on the emergency line that NASA has kept secret, allegedly, for a long time. That's basically along the lines of Neil Armstrong saying on the emergency line, they are here, they are on the hill, and they are watching us. All right? And that is something that is, it's unproven. We're not sure if it actually happened. There are people who I have interviewed who used to work for NASA. I've only interviewed 2 people who used to work for NASA, and they have both said that they actually confirmed that. Now, do you believe that's true, or are they wearing a little bit too much tinfoil? I don't know. I really don't know. It's a good story, that's for sure. I want to believe, but can we? That's the difficulty. That's the absolute difficulty.
Chris Rock did a great thing. He said, you're telling me that, we actually went to the moon when Cadillac hasn't been able to keep a bumper on their car for 20 years?
True.
Which is a good point, right? Like the technology in automobiles, the bumper couldn't even stay on the car. And yet, somehow we went to the moon. So it is challenged. It's challenged all the time because, I mean, it seems so incredibly lofty. And I even think that when you would use the example of more computing power in your hand,
could
either that was one hell of a roll of the dice.
Well, the weird part is, why didn't we go back? Why were the plans scrapped? Okay, why do they not have the ability to pull up in NASA how to build a rocket to get to the moon? How did they do it before? Why has it taken 50 years and we still haven't gone back to our closest orbiting orb, I guess, if you want to call it an orb? All right, what has taken so long? Is it money? Is it more than money? And if we have the technology now to land rocket boosters back on Earth after launching rockets, why haven't we launched for the moon yet? Why do we got to wait until 2025? These are all questions that should be answered. And, unfortunately, we're going to get those typical answers that say, well, we just can't do it, or we had to improve technology, or what have you. But it is amazing. It is amazing how we still, 50 years later, argue about whether or not we landed on the moon. I tend to believe that we did. Marcus Allen, who has some incredible information from Nexus Magazine in the UK, believes that we did not. And it's a very, very fun argument to have on both sides.
Okay, we've got about 30 seconds here, Dave. The president has talked about going back. Do we go back? Does it make it? Does it happen?
I think so. I think so in 2025. I do have something for you before we shoot on out of here, my friend. I do have something.
Yeah, quick.
Folklore or fiddler and Canadian musician Ashley McIsaac will be talking about his ghost stories and so much more tomorrow night on Spaced Out Radio. And make sure you tune us in for the podcast or our YouTube channel, because we don't want your listeners skipping out on you to listen to me. So I got the podcast; they can listen on that on our YouTube channel.
I love it. SpacedOutRadio.com. Dave Scott, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, buddy. Take care. All right, we're going to get to the news here momentarily, and we're going to make this happen. Oh, we got to do this for Captain Shirk. We totally have to do this for Captain Shirk. I don't know where my news theme went again. Ah, there it is. Let's get this thing in here. Sometimes the downright Fantastic. All right. Yes, I know we're still working on a little bit of audio issues here. I will get it figured out, but let's get to one story here because Captain Shirk needs us to at least read one. Let's go to this one. This is a good one. Russian authorities mounted a special operation to arrest a former traffic police officer who claims to be the reincarnation of Jesus and has run a cult based in the depths of Siberia for the past 3 decades. Helicopters and armed officers stormed communities run by Sergei Torop, known to his followers as Vissarion, and arrested him and 2 of his aides. Russian investigative committee said that it would charge him with organizing an illegal religious organization, allegedly that the cult is extorting money from followers and subjected them to emotional abuse. Now, the 59-year-old Torop, with long gray hair and a beard, was led by mass troops to a helicopter. The operation involved agents from Russia's FSB security service, as well as police and other agencies. Vadim Redkin, a former drummer in a Soviet-era boy band who is known as Vissarion's right-hand man, was also arrested along with another aide. Torop, who lost his job as a traffic officer in 1989, claimed he experienced an awakening as the Soviet regime began to collapse. In 1991, he founded a movement now known as the Church of the Last Testament. Several thousand followers live in a series of remote hamlets in the Krasnoyarsk region of Siberia. Converts to the cult have included professionals from across Russia as well as pilgrims from abroad. I am not God, and it is a mistake to see Jesus as God, but I am the living word of the God the Father. Everything that God wants to say, he says through me. Oh, my goodness. This guy is on it. Well, he's going to jail for a while, and maybe he could get some thoughts and prayers to see if he can get out from behind the bars. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Day is as follows. In your opinion, what are crop circles and how are they made? Let's go to Marty, our favorite veteran on this. He goes, they are a form of communication. It's just that we are never certain if it is alien communication or just some dude with a lawnmower communicating that he is some kind of jerk. That's a good, solid one right there, Marty. Thank you so much. We love you, man. All right, Gary, I know they crop up out of nowhere. Davey, crop circles are the natural harmonic frequencies of the music of the universe as they manifest in archetypal imagery in our own physical realm. Or they might just be pretty pictures made by men with planks and string. Oh, good choices, Davey. Russell, if the node expansion measurements from the center to perimeter conform to the Beer-Lambert law of electromagnetism, the image was, in fact, created by a point source of EM radiation. Ron thinks they're man-made. Lisa, not all, but some appear to have been made by white orbs flying around. Marla believes they're made by satellites. Kelly believes most are hoaxed. Preston, it's pretty much space aliens' version of graffiti. Matt, cable guy Matt, says, I think they're messages we need to decode. And on that note, we're going to end it right there. Thank you to everybody for participating in the Thought of the Day. We'll do it all again on Facebook and Twitter tomorrow. Thank you to Captain Shirk for joining us and getting the news all prepared for us. Thanks to Shane from The Shift for bringing us on. And, of course, Marcus Allen, who will be back in January. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everybody who is tuning in our chat rooms on Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and our website, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You were all phenomenal tonight. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, We own the night, Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but tomorrow, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, guess what? We have room for them too. Good night. Oh, hello, everybody. I should turn my microphone up so that way you can hear me. Here to the downloads. Close that out. Close that out. Close that out. Close that out. Hey, Human Carl. What's going on? Oh my God, that's so low. Why is that so low? Oh my goodness, that's terrible. Well, let's boost this shit up. If that works. Hello. I know. Because I don't have my microphone like right here. That's why. I just turned it up a bit. Let's do this over here. Because I can't see. Let's go here. Let's go here. And let's see if we can bring this up a little bit. All right. Copy. And let's see what this sounds like. You're gonna hear this. This is gonna take me a little bit of time here, but you're gonna hear all of this. And I can't hear this. Why can I not hear this? Oh. Frickin' frackin' fruggin'. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Oh, that's terrible. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliate to figure out what we are all about, looking into all of this weird stuff. Oh, and now I hear what you guys are hearing. Central British Columbia. Okay. Is provided. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Dave. Delighted to be here.
How did you get involved with looking into all of this weird, strange phenomena?
It goes back about...
Well, my friend, I'll tell you, last time you were on, we gained a lot of subscribers, a lot of people trying to figure out what we are all about and who we are, and people were very interested in learning all about what you were doing. And this ain't good. We can't send this over. Fuck a duck. Fuck a duck. All right. Let's see what we got here. We're going to have to get something else here. This sucks. This really, really sucks.
possibly some are. I don't deny that, because there have been film of people in the UK which are...
As an added bonus, every 2 weeks,
exploded to the point...
Well, because we don't want your listeners skipping out on you to listen to the one that I would suggest everybody watch is awesome show. Hey, hold on, guys. I'll be right. Give me 2 seconds. Rounded third, we're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune us in tonight. We want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. We're going to be joining Vancouver here momentarily here, as Shane is getting ready to have us for the shift, where we're going to talk all things weird and strange here.
Waiting.
Shane, how you doing?
Dave Scott is the king of the promo.
What do you mean?
Promo and everything.
Yeah,
so good.
Somebody has to, my friend. Somebody has to. You know. You need some
Good,
new
I'm
cuts?
glad.
You need some new cuts for your show? I'll hop on there.
You want a promo?
I'll
We're
promo.
working on some stuff right now. We should. Oh, you just got Matt thinking. I can see his face. That was his thinking face. The light bulb was going off there. Dave Scott, what did you do? You might have started something.
Well, I
he's
felt
looking
it from
excited.
here. I felt it from here, brother.
All right, so here we are, spacedoutradio.com with Dave Scott, here on the shift as we broadcast all across Canada. There's a few places that I was hoping we could go tonight, Dave.
Let's do this.
Dig into a couple of things. I was listening to the program earlier on, yours, and caught a couple of pieces that got me curious, and I thought maybe you could share some of those pieces too. So let's kind of get into this. But before we do that, it is Good News Tuesday-ish here on the show, which we do on the shift every Tuesday, where we share good news. For example, one of the listeners has got a match for his wife's kidney, where it says good news. Another listener found his cat.
That is
right.
awesome.
So we do good news. So what kind of good news do you have? I know you've been working on the studio. Maybe there's some good news there. What kind of good news does Dave Scott and Spaced Out Radio have for us?
All right, good news comes like this. We actually have a show going on. You know, because you know, when you are as non-technical as I am, all right, and I am trying to set up an entire studio with over a phone call from California, it is very difficult. And I'm proud to say that I survived this and that I'm able to do this job. No, on a serious note, I had some good news. I had some very good friends come up this past weekend from Vancouver, Malcolm and Linda, who are very talented performers and singers, and we took them out looking for Bigfoot. We took them out, you know, and showed the area around here. They had never really been up here before, and I'm still kind of buzzing over that because I haven't stayed up that late in a long time and just hanging out and cherishing some moments with friends. So I'm pretty thankful for that, to be absolutely honest.
That is good news. That is good. Matt, I think, does that good news warrant us for some good news here? I think we should probably, you know, one thing we do here, Dave Scott, is we always celebrate the good news. And so this is how we celebrate it to all your listeners, because it is good news, Matt. Good news! It is good news. I'm with friends is always good news. So thank you very much, Dave Scott.
No
Spaced
problem.
Out Radio. Okay, Paranormal, Dave.
Yes.
I wanted to get into this spooky ghosts and all those things.
We can do this.
You know, do we see a rise in paranormal activity I've just got a bunch of questions, at this time of year, or is it just that we're more in tune to the Halloween and the spooky?
You know, as the stores start packing the candy in for Halloween, and we start thinking about costumes and Halloween parties and taking kids trick-or-treating, it becomes a little bit more on the mind. Does it mean things are more haunted? No, not at all. The hauntings have always been there. All right? But the problem that we have is everybody only wants to play ghostly and spooky stuff when it comes closer to Halloween. So with about 7 weeks left, I will proudly tell people point blank that no, things are not more haunted for you. You're not noticing a lot more hauntings. It's always been there. You just don't accept it the other 11 months out of the year. That's pretty much how it goes. Pretty much how it goes. So, I mean...
Opening up our mind a little bit.
Well, we want to feel scared, and we want to get spooked out. We want to get creeped out. You know, most people talk about it. They don't understand what it's like to actually live in a haunted house or work in a haunted building, and it is not fun for a lot of people. I mean, all you have to do is go to some historic sites, you know, I mean, from Fort Langley in New Westminster all the way to Montreal and Halifax and Toronto. Okay, there are many of old taverns and castles there and places that people walk upon every day, and they have no idea how haunted they are.
That ain't working for me.
Because
nope, this ain't working. I'm just gonna get rid of this shit and I'm gonna send an email out here that basically states that okay. Yeah, we don't need to worry about that. Delete. This sucks. But we'll get it worked out. We'll get it worked out. We're almost there. That's the benefit of it all. That is the benefit of it all. Alright guys, I'm going to cut this short because I got to figure out some audio stuff here. Thank you to everybody who participated in the Super Chat tonight. Thank you for everything that you guys do on a nightly basis. And I will be back tomorrow. And thank you for your patience with the audio because it's a little frustrating. And but we're getting there. We're getting closer, and we'll make things happen. So love you all. You guys all take care.